$10 billion business and 900 aircraft. What are we talking about? Let's find out. Hey up everyone, welcome to Martyn Lucas Investor. I'm Vaz. Do you know what time it is? It's time to start talking eVTOLs. We are bringing you exclusively, very exclusively, a live special. What are we covering? We are covering Vertical Aerospace. You know that we dedicate substantial amount of airtime to Vertical Aerospace and we rank very high on Vertical Aerospace and EVTL stock. What we are bringing, because we have great relation with Vertical Aerospace, we are bringing you exclusive conference, Capital Markets Day, where we get updates from the CEO, Stuart Simpson, and more directors. The event is not going to be short, but we got some updates through the day, and there's a lot to catch up with, and there's a lot to keep on top of. So I am now in the room. I'm waiting for the conference to start. Once we start, I'll be moderating through it, and then we will focus on when the CEO and others will be speaking. But we have many updates. What we've got. Let me offer you this video whilst I'm talking over it, and I'll bring you this news. This morning, Vertical Aerospace, which aircraft you can actually see on the screen, the VX4. We've got some updates prior to this event, and this event will be big. You don't want to miss this. I will also give you the last number of the giveaway, so don't go anywhere. As soon as the FOMC report ends, Martyn is streaming it on the on the main channel, on the other event. Let me just quickly show you what is going on, because we are very good at what we are doing. We can offer you simultaneous stream and parallel events. So we have Martyn with his FOMC report. He's got 1,500 people. Most of these people will be joining us as soon as Jerome Powell will stop talking. But there is Martyn for you on the other event, and we are here with Vertical Aerospace. So the news. We have about 9 minutes before the conference starts. So let's quickly focus on this. Vertical Aerospace announces manufacturing facilities and updates on path to certification during Capital Markets Day, which is this very event, which we will start broadcasting in about 9 minutes, exclusively on Martyn Lucas Investor. So what happened? Vertical Aerospace secures initial VX4 aircraft assembly and battery production facilities to support certification and early production. So we are getting indication and timeline on the actual rollout and production. Wow. Vertical Aerospace reiterates clear path to certification in 2028 and shares 700 million spend requirement to certification. It also provides improved financial and operational targets by 2030 and beyond, reflecting momentum over the past year, integration of the hybrid electric business plan, and increased certainty around supplier and manufacturing plans. So Vertical Aerospace have announced they are setting up their production facility. Vertical Aerospace assembly at expanded Cotswold Airport site. New facility adjacent to existing flight test center will have capacity to produce 25 plus VX4 aircraft annually and brings Vertical's total footprint at Cotswold to 100,000 square feet. Cotswold Airport is one of the bigger, if not the biggest, privately owned airport in the UK. It's fairly nice airport. It's fairly nice site. It's family friendly as well. There is a big retired Boeing 747 from the British Airlines, and it's like a museum. You can go in there. You can pay a fee, and you can walk through the business class suite. You can go through the first class, and you can have a peek into the cockpit as well. So the whole airport is family friendly. Those who are from the UK, I strongly recommend to visit. Also, battery production at expanded Avonmouth or Avonmouth. I need to check with somebody who speaks English, who's native English. I think it's Avonmouth site. Adjacent to Vertical's existing energy center, this new 300,000 square feet battery facility will triple capacity for battery production. This facility will provide production capacity into 2030 and brings Vertical's total energy center footprint to 45,000 square feet. Those who follow us and who follow Vertical Aerospace regularly, you know that Vertical Aerospace are not only manufacturing this beautiful aircraft, they are also manufacturing and supplying batteries. And if you think of the battery lifetime, about a year, maybe a year and a half at a push, these will need replaced. This will need regular replacing. And Vertical Aerospace are securing their future through this. Because once you have to replace the battery every year with approximately 40-50% margin on the product, that's a nice runway. So the more aircraft they sell, the more business for the future they will actually have. So what else we've got? We have efficient and cost-effective certification path. And all these updates we will hear directly from the CEO Stuart Simpson. Before we move on, I will also show you on the main channel, we have Martyn. Let me put him live. We have Martyn going live with the FOMC report. Once this finishes, the main audience will come to us and I will give you the last lucky number. If you want to take part in our giveaway, the $2,000 giveaway, you will get numbers from Martyn's from the main event. However, if you want to be part of this, don't go anywhere. Once this finishes, once this ends, it will take you back to this stream, to the FOMC report, and you can get your first two numbers. However, the last one I will give you as soon as this very event ends. So what we've got more of updates. Vertical will reaffirm its plan to certify the all-electric VX4 by 2028. So it's just confirmation and reassurance that they are still on the track, requiring 700 million in funding to reach this milestone. We'll definitely get some updates and some more info and elaboration on this into the coming event. Due to its focused OEM business model, low operating costs relative to the industry, efficient manufacturing plans, and greater clarity of supply costs, the company is able to project requirements to reach certification by 2028. The approach of the UK Civil Aviation Authority and European Union Aviation Safety Agency, who are collaborating on eVTOL certification safety standards, front-loads the certification progress and minimizes late-stage surprises or delays, providing greater confidence to Vertical's plans and timelines. So we have updated financial outlook. And wow, we are finally open. Well, we are not open for business yet, but we are finally talking business. Vertical Aerospace, their deliveries, at least 175 aircraft delivered cumulatively by 2030. Nice. If you consider price of each aircraft about $4 million, you can do the maths of the revenue. Versus prior guidance of at least 150. So we are upping the guidance. Let me just check if the event, no, nothing is going on yet. That's fine, because the audio just stopped. The music just stopped. So we will go live in probably a couple of minutes. Manufacturing over 225 units per annum manufacturing run rate as of fourth quarter 2030 versus prior guidance of over 200 units per annum as of the same period. Are we live now? All right, so we are going to start very shortly. I'll bring this on the screen and I'll keep talking through the updates. So its manufacturing guidance is going up and we should be up to 900 aircraft in 2035. How amazing that is big. And if you do the maths again, 4 million per aircraft, and their operational margin is expected to be about, as you can see here, about 40%. So again, you can do the maths for the profitability. And cash flow, this is great revision as well. Over 100 million positive operating cash flow in 2030 versus prior guidance of break even. How great that is. So we are actually making money earlier and higher and more and better. And as you can see, Vertical Aerospace should be cash neutral by 2029 and profitable in 2030. So for now, I will switch to the stream. I will leave it on the screen. Before we start, I would like to say massive thank you to the Vertical Aerospace team. We have great relation with Vertical Aerospace. They are friends of our channel, of our network, and this is multiple time we are engaging with them, and we are bringing exclusively content from them to you. So thank you, Samuel, namely the investor relations manager, and the whole Vertical Aerospace team, because I happened to be on the guest list on this very conference, which you can see on the screen. The guests are taking their seats. We will start very shortly. I was actually on the guest list on this event, and I got the invitation from the CEO Stuart Simpson himself. I would love to show you the email, but I couldn't filter the personal, the sensitive data. So I will show you probably on Saturday when I sort of touch up some details. But I've got the invitation. There's a great panel as well of speakers. There'll be the CEO, Stuart Simpson. There will be the chairman, Domhnal Slattery. There will be Michael Cervenka, the chief, the technical director. There will be more board members. There will be also the customers, their customers talking as well. So we will hear this from both sides. And I think there's a lot we can look forward to. Also, we can submit the questions. So if you have any questions, fire them away in the chat. I'm monitoring the chat. We've got people coming in. We've got James. We have a lot of new members. Hey Vaz, sending good vibes your way. Thank you, Matthew. So definitely, if you have any questions, fire them away, and I will submit them live to Vertical Aerospace. How exclusive that is! You have your tickets to the first row. Hopefully, you brought your Coke and popcorn. There we go. So I'm monitoring this. They will start literally any minute, because the guests, they are just taking their seats. Obviously, the CEO mentioned, and he sent an email this morning, please be there on time. Not in these words, but yeah, because the event wants to start on time. Okay, we are 2 minutes into the event and people are still taking places, taking seats. Right, we are literally a minute away from the start. What is the stock doing today? What has the stock been doing today? Yesterday, I couldn't figure out why. Because there was no filing, nothing. It looks like it would have been a dilution, but I couldn't find anything. The volume increase was not there. Just yesterday, before the market opened, it started crashing, and we had like 10-15% crash for a reason I'm not able to give you at this point. It looks like potential funding. It looks like potential dilution, but I couldn't see any filing. I couldn't see any updates. So currently the stock price is at 474. Today is been slightly up and down, bouncing between 8 and 480. Let's see, once they start talking, let's see what institutional investors are watching. By the way, why these conferences are important? Because you as an investor, you want to be there. These conferences get very low coverage. Very rarely they get any good coverage. You get a lot. You get a lot of surprises, like Adam Goldstein. Oh.
We're about to get started, so we encourage you to come in and take your seats if not already.
Right, we are going to start in the very minute. So, in one of these conferences, Adam Goldstein, the Archer CEO, he actually casually said that Archer will be shifting towards the defense. The other conference, last year, I think it was Sidoti conference, and Stuart Simpson, the CEO of Vertical Aerospace, he gave you massive update on the business and the new development of their strategy. And I watched the video, and there was literally 150 views. So quite missed opportunity by the investors. So you are here exclusively. We are bringing this to you, and we will start in the very second.
Welcome you to Vertical Aerospace's Capital Markets Day. My name is Jillian Levine, and alongside my colleague Samuel Emden, we run the investor relations efforts for the company. A few housekeeping items before we get started. There's dedicated Q&A in the middle and again at the end of the session. We kindly ask that you hold any questions until that point. Immediately following the presentations, we will invite you to join us for a cocktail reception in the room next door, where you'll have the opportunity to meet our leadership team. This event is being webcast, and materials can be found on our investor relations website. A quick reminder, we will be making forward-looking statements which may involve risks and uncertainties. We encourage you to refer to the Form 6K filed with the SEC earlier today for more information on these risk factors that may cause actual results to differ materially from current expectations. We have a packed agenda today with leaders across finance, aviation, and national security. You all should have received a detailed agenda on your seats with the detailed timings. With that, please turn your attention to the screens for a video highlighting our vision and recent progress.
You can submit your questions. If you have any questions, you can pop them in the chat, and I will submit these. I need to mute the audio because of copyright. So they are just playing the intro about their business. We can't see the whole screen anyway, because the screen behind the stage is cropped. The camera is cropped, so the experience wouldn't be there for you anyway. But they are now playing a little inspirational video. Let me just crop it in the frame so we can get the best experience of the whole stream.
This is no distant dream. It's today's reality.
Look at that beauty. By the way, I've got my own little Vertical Aerospace badge. Can you see it? Special event.
Domhnal Slattery, and I'm the chairman of Vertical Aerospace. And it's a real privilege to stand before you today at what I think is a moment of great change in the aviation industry. For 36 years, I have been part of the aviation industry, founding and building two of the world's largest aircraft lessors, including Avalon. And along the way, I've raised $75 billion in capital, built enduring businesses, and worked with airlines, regulators, governments, and investors across the world. And over the past 2 decades, I've worked very closely with the leadership and the boards of the world's leading airframe and engine manufacturers: Boeing, Airbus, GE, Pratt & Whitney, and Rolls-Royce. And my role as one of their largest customers was often to challenge their strategic assumptions, and most importantly, to ensure that they remained grounded in the needs of their airline customers. Because once an aircraft achieves certification, there's really only one measure that truly matters, and that is whether it serves the customer safely and profitably. And this perspective that I have, which is born of decades at the intersection of manufacturers, financiers, and airlines, is something that I bring to Vertical every single day. And I believe it is an insight that few in this emerging sector possess, and it gives us an advantage that is both distinctive and enduring. And that journey over the last 3.5 decades has taught me that aviation is not simply about the aircraft. It's about foresight. It's about discipline. And most of all, it is about trust. And those same qualities are at the heart of this company, Vertical Aerospace. And they are why I can say to you today that this is the right company with the right aircraft at the right moment in history to transform the way the world moves. And by the time I conclude these few words, I want to leave you with three messages. The first is that eVTOLs as a sector is the most transformational shift in aviation since the dawn of the jet age. The second is self-serving, and that is that Vertical Aerospace has the team and, most importantly, the strategy to win. And the third is that the VX4, this aircraft you've just seen, is unquestionably best in class, with its most important moment in its history, full transition flight, fast approaching. I believe we're now entering the third great transformation in aviation. And if you think about it, over the last 100 years, aviation has redrawn the map of human possibility. In 1903, the Wright brothers gave mankind wings. And in the 1950s, the first jet airliner, the British-built Comet, shrank the world, putting global travel within reach of every nation. And each of those breakthroughs created new industries, new business models, and new wealth. And today, unquestionably, we are at the threshold of the third great transformation: safe, quiet, sustainable electric flight, which is going to give us back the one commodity that's most precious, and that is time. And I predict that within 2 decades, eVTOL aircraft will be as integral to urban transport as high-speed rail or the underground. Cities will design their skylines around them, and passengers will expect them as naturally as they hail or book a taxi today. I mentioned the word trust in my opening remarks. And so let me address what I think is the most important point first: safety. In aviation, safety is the currency of trust. Vertical's VX4 is being certified to the highest possible standard globally, 10 to the -9. This is the same benchmark that is used for Boeing and Airbus commercial aircraft. And this is not simply a technical achievement, it is a psychological one, because it gives regulators, operators, and you, the passengers, confidence to get on this aircraft safely. Now, later this afternoon, you will hear from Patrick Kai. Patrick was formerly the executive director of EASA, the European Aviation Regulator. And I think it's self-evident when a regulator of this caliber and experience joins the board of an OEM developing a novel technology, the message is pretty clear. He is confident in our ability to certify on time, and that is in 2028. Now, beyond safety, the VX4 cabin offers 50% larger capacity, 50% larger capacity than any of our principal competitors. Our cabin is designed for business class comfort with a 4-seat layout offering a premium service. And uniquely, we offer a 6-seat layout providing affordable high-volume travel. In either case, it redefines what people will expect from short-haul mobility. And also uniquely in our aircraft, you can check in 4 70-pound bags. No other cabin, none of our competitors can do that. I'd like to talk about focus for a minute, because one of the great lessons of my career is that investors reward clarity and focus from management teams, because businesses that try to do too much generally fail, and businesses that focus typically endure. Vertical Aerospace is disciplined. We are, and we will remain, an OEM. We build aircraft, and we service those aircraft by supporting our customers. We will not dilute our strategic focus trying to become an operator. It is always better to partner with your customers, not compete with them. It's pretty obvious. And through our proprietary battery services business, and I think this is really important, we will generate long-term, contractual, multi-decade recurring revenue. And within a decade, we expect that our battery services business alone will account for over 30% of our earnings. And for those of you that follow the aerospace and defense industry, this is a proven model, and particularly in the aero engine sector, because that model delivers growth and resilience. And I have a little bit of knowledge in that, given that my brother was the chairman and CEO of GE Aviation. So we know it works. But ultimately, any business, it's about the people. And I think we've assembled a team drawn from the very, very best of aviation, engineering, energy, and defense. And to support our world-class executive team, a number of which you will hear from today, I've spent the last 10 months assembling a new board and a cohort of advisors to support the business as we move to commercialization and the industrialization of this product. This not only includes bringing on our newest board member, Patrick Kai, but also Eamon Brennan as a board advisor. Eamon is the former Director General of Eurocontrol. And for those of you that may not know, Eurocontrol coordinates Europe's airspace, and he is supporting Vertical in building out the ecosystem to operate these aircraft safely. Today, you will also hear from Lord Andrew Parker, the former Director General of MI5, who was more recently Lord Chamberlain to the late Queen Elizabeth II, the most senior official in the royal household. Andrew has almost 4 decades of national security experience globally, right at the top of the food chain. And I'm delighted to have him helping us navigate the complexities of working with government and the defense sector. We were also joined in May by J.K. Brown, Chris Haber, and Karsten Stevenvad, who between them have decades of deep capital markets experience and deep credibility. This year alone, we've raised about $160 million from new, high-caliber investors. And we will return to the markets in due course as our current runway extends to the middle of next year. Unlike some of our competitors, we have embraced the concept of working with Tier 1 aerospace partners. These include Honeywell on the avionics, Aciturri for our airframe, and Bristow for global operational support. And these are not just names on a slide. They are the partners who will help deliver the VX4 safely, on time, and at scale. And I'm pleased to say that development milestones are being met. And in particular, and you'll hear more about this today, we remain highly confident that we will achieve a successful transition test flight in Q4. That, my friends, is the Holy Grail. And it will be a pivotal moment in the history of this company, and dare I say, it will act as a catalyst for our share price. Why? Because it is a fundamental de-risk point. It is the moment we have demonstrated to regulators that this aircraft works. And frankly, with an order book of over 1,500 aircraft, we have an amazing foundation for success. And today, you will hear from 2 of our customers. One of the largest aircraft leasing companies in the world, and 2, the founder of the largest low-cost airline in Southeast Asia. Now, if you might, let me take you for a little look into the future. Just imagine a world where journeys that once took hours on congested highways are literally completed in minutes, where flying to a business meeting across the mega cities of the world is no more complex than ordering a taxi, where hospitals, police forces, and emergency responders rely on safe electric aircraft that are quieter, that are cheaper, and much cleaner than helicopters. And my friends, this is not a distant dream. It is a reality taking shape in cities across the globe already. And the VX4 will be at its centre. We are also at a watershed moment for the defence industry. The hybrid electric version of the VX4, which we will tell you more about later, is going to open significant market opportunities for us, moving goods, extending range, and supporting national security. Aviation has always been dual use, civil and defence, and the VX4 will be no different. So let me close by returning you to the three messages that I wanted you to take away today. Just three. First is aviation is undergoing this third great transformation, electric flight. Second, Vertical Aerospace has the team, the partners, the vision, and the discipline to be the market leader and deliver lasting shareholder returns. And ultimately, the third thing I want you to take away is that the VX4 will be the defining aircraft of this transformation. 10 years from now, when people look back at the dawn of electric aviation today, they will remember who stood at the front. They will remember which aircraft became the standard. And they will remember the investors that saw that future first. And the future is here. The aircraft is the VX4, and the company is Vertical Aerospace. This is not just an investment, ladies and gentlemen. It is an opportunity to help shape the next history of aviation. Thank you very much for listening to me. And I would now like to introduce you to our CEO, Stuart Simpson. Since stepping into the role of CEO just over a year ago, Stuart has unquestionably led a step change in our business. He's focused on execution, the development and delivery on a robust business plan is simply world-class. And I know he's got some great, interesting updates for you. So please give Stuart a warm welcome to the stage.
That was great. Great introduction. We are already getting some good hints.
Domhnal, thank you.
As investors.
Good afternoon, everybody. Great to see you all here. I can safely say if this was 12 months ago, this meeting would take place in a phone box and it would be me and Jason, right? That would be it. We could not get media, we could not get investors, we could not get banks, analysts. It would be Jason and I in a phone box. So to be stood here 12 months later is a phenomenal justification and validation of the work we've been doing over the last 12, 15, 18 months. It is utterly transformational. As Domhnal talked about our new board members, we could never have imagined to have that quality of board members this time last year. It is utterly transformational. To have 100 people in here with us is brilliant. And a huge thank you to all the investors that have put your trust and faith in me and the team. And in particular, I know we've got some investors from Mudrick Capital who have invested both directly and through Mudrick Capital. So again, thank you to all of you for coming. This really is something above and beyond what I could have dreamed of 12 months ago. So we are in great shape. We have transformed. And just to validate that one little bit more, if we look at the guests that are speaking today with Tony Fernandes, with Scott Galloway, with Savi Sith, with Jim Morrison, we are absolutely blessed to have these people coming in, committing their time, their reputation, their energy to work with us, to talk about us. It is, again, above and beyond what we could have expected. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Stuart Simpson, as Domhnal said, the CEO. Thank you very much for the kind words, Domhnal. I haven't raised $75 billion. I have done 30 years in engineering-led businesses, led huge, large, complex organisations, transformations, development programmes for many, many years, and it led 2 FTSE 100 businesses at the latter end of my career. I have a deep understanding of how you bring a product to market. Automotive, aerospace, that's what we're doing. I genuinely believe, and I'll say this again through the course of today, we are the only people in the industry with a true understanding of what you have to do and how you have to do it to bring an aerospace product to market. We are the only ones that are doing this in a rigorous, engineering-led way. We know what we are doing. And you'll hear from David and Michael and some of our board members in terms of how we bring that to life. Now, if I turn to a little bit of what we've done over the last year, Domhnal talked about how we've relaunched the business. We had a Flight Path 2030. We put that out last year. It was our strategy on how we lead the industry, how we go from where we were last year, prototype shop, no plan, to something that leads the industry from then on through to 2030. So today I can provide an update on that because we've got 12 months, 15 months more data. I can give you more fidelity, more precision. What was already a relatively conservative plan, we've further de-risked. So a significant update on that. Then there's 3 key questions I get asked as I go around and meet investors. Does it work? Can you certify it? 20 seconds. That's all you need to remember. 20 seconds. Can you build it and where are you going to build it? Where's your factory? Bristol. That's all you need to remember. And how much does it cost to get certification? You guys have got to catch up. You're miles in a hole. No, we're not. We know exactly what we're going to do, and it's less than $700 million. And I'll take you through each of those. So, just to remind you what we are, building on what Domhnal said, we want to take 2 hours into 10 minutes, liberate billions of hours for people. Clean, safe, silent, scalable, but importantly, at a mass transit cost point. A mass transit cost point. We've modelled out over 1,200 routes based on mobile phone data, how many people are doing the routes, what load factors are, how you deploy the aircraft. Very conservatively, $2 per seat per kilometre. That is mass transport. This is truly transformational. You've got to make the first step. I believe we are the first step. We know how to do this. So, if I then turn to Flight Path 2030 and how we are updating and de-risking that plan. This time last year, I'd already signed off an investment in a hybrid powertrain. Been running on the bench now for over 18 months. We know it works. The difficult bit with a hybrid is you've got a power source, you've got a battery, you've got an EPU. You have to get them to talk to each other. We've already done that. Already done it. We're just going to swap out the power source. This thing works. It's going to be flying next year, so we put that in our plan. The cost to go from where we are today to certification, 75% of those costs are contracted or quoted, giving great fidelity on what it's going to cost to get there. If you look post-certification, over 50% of the costs are contracted or quoted. In both cases, every single major system or component is in that bucket. It gives us great fidelity on the plan. This is something we can and will deliver. I've been doing this for 30 years, more than 30 years, unfortunately. And every time I go in and talk to a board, it's normally do more, do faster, next quarter, how do you drive it? Completely different discussion. Completely different discussion. We've wound back and been conservative on every single step of the way. We will deliver this for less than $700 million, and we will outperform every single metric post-certification. I have zero doubt about it. absolutely zero doubt. It was a completely different discussion from the usual board discussion. So with that, turning to a couple of updates that we have on the flight path 2030. Last year we talked about 150 deliveries by the end of 2030. We'll be up to 175. So we scale slowly. Certify 28, ramp production in 29, learn, drive forward, 175 aircraft delivered by the end of 2030. Importantly, it pulls forward cash break even to Q4 2029, a year earlier than before. 2030 will generate $100 million of free cash flow on the most conservative basis I've ever seen. We can and will do that. And it's because of those things I've mentioned. We've got a lot of this already contracted in. And I'll talk about the manufacturing to build on that. So now turning to the three big questions. First one is, does it work and can you certify it? You've seen the video, I hope, of the aircraft flying. This thing works. We are doing every single moment of flying to a higher barrier than anyone else in the world. They don't even come close to what we have to do to fly our aircraft every single day. We do it jointly with our regulator. They have a liability if this aircraft crashes joint with me, their chief executive and me. We are jointly liable if there's a crash. So you can imagine the level of focus that puts on the regulator to say, yeah, you guys go fly over schools. You guys go fly in public. We've already done it. We know we can certify this. And I said 20 seconds, that's all you need to remember. Our aircraft has taken off vertically like a helicopter. It's landed vertically like a helicopter. It's accelerated like a helicopter. It's decelerated like a helicopter. It's taken off like an aircraft. It's flown like an aircraft. It's landed like an aircraft. We have a 20-second moment to go from 30 knots to 70 knots when it flies like an aircraft. Helicopter to aircraft, aircraft to helicopter. That's all we've got to do. It's the last 20 seconds. In all the hundreds of kilometres we've flown, we have 20 seconds. That's it. At that point, as Domhnal said, this is a major technology and certification unlock. It proves the concept of the aircraft works. At that point, we drive through certification and industrialise. There are no late surprises. And we actually have Patrick Key to thank for that. Patrick was instrumental in writing what's called eVTOL, the regulation under which we're certifying. It is clear, it's stable, there are no late surprises. Prove the concept, certify the aircraft. 20 seconds. It's all we've got left to do, and we're going to do it this year. Next big question, where do you build it? How are you guys going to build it? I'm really, really pleased to say we're going to do this in Bristol. It's all you need to remember. We're already in Bristol.
This is very important.
We're expanding the footprints we already have. Let me take you through the aircraft, first of all. Really important to understand the manufacturing philosophy. No drilling, no reaming, no painting. Every single activity that creates dirt and mess is pushed into a supply chain. You park an airframe in a module, and you pull in components, subsystems, and you attach them to it. It's a big kit, entirely modular, entirely scalable. It has nothing to do with building 1 million Corollas. Literally nothing. I spent 16 years in the automotive industry. This has nothing to do with building a Corolla or 700 Dodge Rams. Nothing. It has everything to do with how you build a McLaren hypercar, a Ferrari hypercar, a Bugatti, a bespoke Rolls-Royce, a bespoke Bentley. We're going to have 100,000 square feet of space right where we already build and fly the aircraft. Reduces cost, minimises risk, entirely scalable. That'll see us with productive capacity through 29 into 2030, beyond certification. The battery, exactly the same philosophy. We're expanding the current footprint, we're tripling the size of our vertical energy centre. It gives us the capacity for research, development and production of the battery and the hybrid powertrain. Low cost, low risk. No white elephant factory destroying capital. No white elephant underutilised big empty factory. We scale as we grow. We do not waste a dollar. So, Bristol, that is how we're bringing this to life. The final question is, how much does this cost? How much does it cost to bring it to certification? I've already explained, we've got a lot of this nailed down. 75% of our engineering costs that are being pushed to the supply chain are under contract and quoted. That means I've got a great understanding of how much this is going to cost. I've explained the manufacturing ramp that we have to do. I know the cost of it. It's baked in here. So there are no surprises. We're certifying under SC VTOL. We flush out all the engineering surprises in that 20 seconds. At that point, we're shrink wrapping and industrializing. $700 million. It's a huge amount of money. But it's a tiny amount compared to what our peers spend. A little bit more than they spend in a year. That'll take us to certification. I think that's quite remarkable, and it's a reflection, as Domhnal said, focus, focus, focus. No distractions, OEM. And an industry-leading understanding of what to do and how to bring an aerospace product to market. No one else has that clarity and precision of what you have to do and how you do it as we have. And you'll hear from both David and Michael with years and years and years of experience. In our top team, we have over 30 aircraft or powertrains certified in the aerospace industry. No one else comes close. So this is why I'm comfortable we can beat the 700 million. We know what we're doing, a clear set of regulatory standards. So the buckets that falls into, we have, and everything here is kind of round numbers, it'll be plus minus 10%. It's about 550 million on engineering. Our people, we're a public company, we have to run the business, certain costs go with that. That's one bucket. The next bucket is the non-recurring costs. 75% well understood, the rest is pretty small stuff. 225, you then add on the capex for fit out and the buildings I've talked about, gets you a bit over 800, you knock out the cash in the bank. Baked within that, plus minus 700, and this is why I know we can beat it, there is $70 million of working capital to build the first year's worth of customer aircraft delivered in 2029. It's not really a cost to certification, but it's in that time window to the end of 28, so I've included it. But if you want to be pure about it, you can cut that out, because that's working capital. And we're talking to governments about how they can help support as we bring factories and facilities to life, further reducing this. So I have no doubt we're going to beat this. Absolutely no doubt we can and will put this aircraft in the air for less than $700 million. Because it's already out there. We understand all the cost buckets. So just starting to wrap up, Domhnal said, we have the best aircraft. I won't go into why, you'll be hearing about it. We have the best aircraft, we have the best business model, we're the most efficient. We have industry-leading knowledge and understanding of how you bring this product to market. No one else gets close. 20 seconds. Bristol, 700 million. You put all that together, major technical and certification de-risk, absolute clarity of process and certainty of the money. And all of that brings around cash flow break even end of 29, $100 million free cash flow 2030. We ramp from there to 900 aircraft in 2035 at a 40% margin. on the most conservative business plan I've ever seen. This is why I believe Vertical is well placed to lead this industry. We can and will be the single most successful player in this space because we have the focus, as Domhnal said. That is what we're doing every day. So with that, you're going to hear a bit about why not just I believe, but why our board believes, why our customers believe, why investors believe. We can and will be the most successful in this space. So thank you very much again for coming. As I say, it would have been me and Jason in a phone box last year. It's great to see so many people here. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day.
That was a great update. A lot of news.
Two things.
Yeah. We are now covering.
One, the $700 million is just a tad over what our principal competitors are spending per year. Just think about that. Think about capital efficiency. It's quite startling. The second thing is we've assumed $0 coming in from our customers in progress payments. Very few manufacturers will present you a cash flow with no customer payments. We decided to take the most prudent approach possible. Now, it is really a privilege to welcome our next presenter to the stage. I first got to know Patrick at the start of the year because we'd identified him as the absolute best candidate in the world to bring onto our board to get us the deep certification and regulatory experience that we felt we needed. And why was he the best in the world? Well, because quite simply, he's the guy that drafted all the rules when he was the Director General of EASA. So this 10 to the minus 9 safest certification standard in the world was drafted by Patrick Kai. He's now on our board and chairs our certification committee. And it's genuinely a privilege to invite him onto the stage. Patrick.
We are covering Capital Markets Day with Vertical Aerospace, massive updates on the business strategy and guidance. Don't forget to hit the like button. We are bringing this exclusively to you. Nobody else brings this. Thank you.
So, I'm Patrick Key. I'm an aviation engineer, aeronautical engineer. I just joined Vertical's board 2 weeks ago, actually. But I have made a lot of studies, like any regulator does, into Vertical in order to basically see and ascertain if I was making the right choice. I will explain to you a bit more about that. I was in charge of EASA up until 2 years ago. Now I'm currently the head of the Aviation Innovation Agency for the government of Singapore. Previously to EASA, I was in charge of the Single European Sky program for Europe. It's an innovation program. I led that for 7 years. And before that, I was working in the European Commission and in the French Civil Aviation Authority. I've seen a lot of what aviation offers in terms of jobs. Obviously, the most interesting part of my career was with EASA. I've been in EASA for 10 years. I faced, unfortunately, 5 major events, accidents, such as the Germanwings accident, the Boeing 737 MAX accidents, the war with Ukraine, and so on and so forth. From my years with EASA, there were basically 3 conclusions that I drew to myself when I left EASA. The first one is that aviation is extremely safe. It's by far the safest transportation mode in the world. But the level of safety of aviation that we have reached today is not good enough. I've met with victims' families from the Germanwings accidents, from the Lion Air accidents, and believe me, when you are faced with families of victims, you wish you had done more in order to prevent those accidents. And that's really something that I believe, aviation is extremely safe, but it's not safe enough. We can do better. My second point was that, aviation is always seen as very conservative. Pilots, they refuse automation. When I was in EASA, I launched a project for single pilot operations, thinking that AI could assist pilots and do a number of tasks. And this task has met with tremendous opposition from pilot unions for good and bad reasons, but that's a bit the tradition in aviation. And my strong belief is that innovation can actually make aviation safer. And that instead of resisting innovation, we should embrace innovation so that we can become a more efficient, more sustainable, and safer domain. So I brought all those thoughts with me when I left EASA, and I decided to join Vertical's board. We can go to the next slide. Why? When I have been faced in my EASA life with a number of companies in aviation, and in fact, their success or failure boils down to 3 dimensions, really. The people, the culture, and the product. Okay? And the people, I'm going to say things that you are not going to like, but I will say them nevertheless. I saw too many times extremely successful companies doing very well, having very innovative products, which sunk or became less good, let's say, because all their management and all their management decisions were taken over by financial people. That's where I thought that you would not like what I was going to say. Aviation is a very technical business. Of course, you need financial people to drive the business, but at the core of the product development, the DNA of an aviation company lies with its engineering capability. That's what I strongly believe. And that, I have to say, I found, surprisingly, I found with Vertical. I found engineering teams which were extremely competent, with people that I knew from behind. My former certification director, Trevor Woods, joined Vertical, for instance. But I met the 2 gentlemen that you will listen to later on. You will see their amount of knowledge, their belief in what they say is just astounding. And this is what I liked in Vertical. The power of strong technical leadership together with what Domhnal is bringing, and Stuart. The overall strategic view, financial view, where are our revenues, where is our market, and so on and so forth. This is quite unique, I think. This is quite unique. And I loved it. Second aspect, culture. There are different types of cultures for the aviation companies that I know. There is the culture of the startup, which becomes bigger and bigger, and which relies on one guru. What I have seen in a number of instances was that this became a difficulty because the guru did not accept to be contradicted. And even the best of the best sometimes make mistakes. So that's one kind of organization. The other type of organization is an organization where you have so much conservatism that no decisions are taken. People are afraid of delivering anything, do not take any risk. That's another type of of companies. I know a lot like this in aviation, where when you do inspections of their products or their processes, everything is perfect, but they don't deliver anything. They don't deliver anything meaningful. And you have the third culture, which is the people who are selling anything that you want to sell. They promise things all over the world, and they disperse themselves in different regions of the world. But at the end of the day, there is nothing behind. In vertical, I have not found any of those cultures. I have found a culture of focus on what needs to be done. I'll take back what you were saying, focusing on what needs to be done. Not
this is a fresh view of somebody who just started with Vertical a couple of weeks ago.
Okay,
so listen to this, it's quite good feedback.
I need to focus on what I have to deliver, and I have to deliver in the right manner. Third dimension, it's the product. You have seen the video. I was certifying an aircraft, a eVTOL, with only one passenger and one pilot. This product doesn't, I mean, you understand that it cannot make sense from a commercial perspective. There was another product that I was certifying. Even I was not understanding how it was designed, how it could fly. And there, it did not go well. It's not because I have a better engineering knowledge than others, but it was so complicated that it could never fly commercially. Here, with Vertical, you have a machine which is at the same time complex and simple. It's complex because, you know, to be able to take off and then to fly like an aircraft, you need a tilting of the rotors. It's complicated, but the rest is extremely simple. And that's what I like in the product. Plus, it's a beautiful product, I have to say. It's a beautiful product. I look forward to sitting in it. So those are the reasons why I chose to join Vertical. And for the last 2 weeks, I've enjoyed very much working with you. And I look forward to the next months and years. Next slide. So, the UKCA and EASA have
this will be important.
Bilateral,
you want to listen to this.
So they work closely together on the certification of the Vertical products. There is this notion of 1 in a billion safety objective, 10 to the minus 9. When we started to draft regulations on advanced air mobility, in fact, we started by drafting regulations on drones, UAS. And what we did in Europe, as in the US, is that we decided that a drone belonged to general aviation. And therefore, the framework for certifying UAS drones was the CS23, which means you certify it as if it is a small airplane, okay, not used for commercial purposes. We developed this, so flying during night, flying during day and night, in all kinds of conditions, with all kinds of weights and ranges. Then came the question on drones or vehicles, manned vehicles, which could transport passengers. And that's where we disagreed with the FAA. The FAA created this notion of safety continuum. So they used the CS23, which is the baseline for general aviation, which is used for drones, and they evoluted it towards eVTOL, okay, which has its pros and cons. The pro is that it allows for more experiments. It allows for more flexibility. It allows for readjustments which can be made by the industry when you develop the product. We, and I, because I was really involved in that choice, we decided that if we were transporting passengers commercially, we needed to provide the same level of safety to the passengers as if they were in a commercial airplane, which was a fundamental difference with the FAA. Okay? This is the reason why in Europe we defined our very own rules for the eVTOL, so the vehicles which are used commercially to transport passengers, with a target level in terms of safety, which is the same as for commercial aviation. Why? It's because we believe, and I continue to believe, that those eVTOLs will become a mass market in the future. And if you have a mass market, you really cannot afford to have a lower safety target than the one that you have with commercial airspace. Okay? So that explains our major difference. The second point, which is a very cultural difference between the US and Europe, is that Europe is composed of 27 countries. The US, only one country. And the fact that we are made of 27 countries means that we have to define very precisely everything in advance so that it's the same rule which is going to be applied by the 27 countries. So the way in which we build our regulatory environment in Europe is that we tend to define with an extreme level of precision most of our rules. This has benefits and this has drawbacks. The benefit is that it's very, very clear. Everything is defined. The drawback is that it's less flexible. So it is the same for the SC-VTOL, which means that the rule that we wrote was published in 2018 or 2019. It sets very clearly what are the requirements to certify an eVTOL. We published, because we publish that as well, what is called the means of compliance, and this is the set of guidelines saying, okay, this requirement, you can meet it through simulations, through models, through different types of ways of doing it. We published everything. In the US, I'm not saying that it's wrong. Huh? In the US, the approach is different because since the rules are not that clear, not that well defined, and they evolve according to the certification project which is taking place, the means of compliance are not public because they depend on the specific project you are talking about, which creates a lot of uncertainty on what are going to be the next phases, and also it creates uncertainty for the competitors. What was accepted for this one and what will be accepted for me. In Europe, you don't have that. Everything is public. Okay. Last but not the least, you have the certification of the vehicle, but equally important is how you operate the vehicle. That means the training, the air operations, and how you maintain it. Okay. And for this, we have written down all regulations. So for training, for maintenance, for air traffic control, and so on and so forth, in Europe. The good news is that those regulations are very close to the ones which were written in other regions of the world, in Southeast Asia, in South America and Central America, in the Middle East, in North Africa, in Africa in general. Because since the EASA model was younger than the FAA model, and since on top of it, it was the result of discussions between 27 states, our regulations for operations have been taken as the basis for a number, the majority of regulations for aviation in the world. And this is also, I think, a benefit of our system. Next slide. So, coming back to vertical and the way I have seen so far vertical approaching certification, because of our approach, where everything is written down in the eVTOL, in the guidelines and in the regulations, what I have seen is that vertical has front-loaded a lot of the work. What I think is working very well, even though at the start it was a bit less easy, is the relationship between vertical and the regulator, UKCA and EASA. This is a must, especially for a project in which both the industry and the regulator are learning at the same time. You need to have a very, very strong partnership in which you exchange all information in a very fluent manner. And I think you meet with the UKCA every single week. Every single week. And that allows to de-risk a lot of the things which are likely to happen later on during the certification process. So this is extremely good. In the case of the FAA, because of what I explained to you before, which is that the rules are less defined and evolve with the project, you discover things much towards the end, okay? I'm not saying that we are not going to discover anything substantial before we certify the aircraft, but at least we de-risk the thing. Having this dialogue and having tried at least to solve most of the issues right from the start of the project. So I think that's really something which works very well so far. We are in discussions with the UKCA and EASA on a better use of models and simulation tools, because especially with AI, but with all the data which are generated by flight tests, we can certainly do better than just repeating the flight tests. And this is something that we are doing with them, and I have good hopes that it will result in simplified flight tests for certification. Next slide. Why all the things that I mentioned to you matter in my view? First of all, a certification process is a very risky process. Risky, especially if you discover things at the last minute, because if, let's say, 1 month before the target date for certification, you discover that your design cannot deliver the expected target, then you are in big, big, big trouble. And this unfortunately happened to our friends from Volocopter. So the best is that you de-risk as much as you can along the process. Okay? And I believe that we have started to do that between Vertical and EASA and the UKCA. Second point, the market for our vehicles is going to be a worldwide market. And EASA has, I can't talk for the UKCA because I don't know, but EASA has bilateral agreements with a number of countries around the world, which means that their certificate will be recognized by a number of countries around the world. Moreover, if you can do 10 to the minus 9, if you build a safer aircraft, probably it's going to be much easier to certify it in countries where the threshold is lower. So if you think about this approach of having a strong partnership between Vertical and the regulators, about having a more constraining safety target, which has been set for the vehicle, I think that we are putting together a product, which meets all the requirements for a successful story and for a successful investment for the future. I thank you very much for your attention.
It might sound a bit boring, but it's very important for the certification. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat and I can submit them directly to Vertical Aerospace
Anything at
for
all.
you.
We've got roving microphones. We've got one down the front, and then we've got one over here.
And this will be very important and interesting part as well, because these are the questions from the investors and the institutions and partners.
One of the questions I have is between 2025 Q4 and 2028, what are the milestones that you will have to achieve? And is this 225 million in non-recurring expenses enough to achieve that?
Yes. So definitively enough. The big milestones, for those of you with an engineering background will recognise this. When you've designed the product, which we've done, we built the prototype, 20 seconds left to go. The next big one is called a CDR, a critical design review, at which point the engineers put their pens down, you've locked in the whole supply chain. We'll be doing that in the middle of next year. The next one is you build the aircraft to that design, which we've already, in the aerospace terms, initiated production because we've already ordered components for it. First one of those will complete, and not end of next year, start of the following year, and then you're just flying them. We build the first one, fly it. We build 6 more, fly it. I think, as Patrick said, we're working incredibly closely with the regulator, absolutely hand in hand, to minimise the number of flight hours we're doing, because we've got a model that, based on everything we've seen, is 99.xxx% accurate to what the real aircraft is doing. So using AI tools, as Patrick said, you can massively accelerate. It isn't about building loads of aircraft and flying them for 5 years. This is a new way of doing it that the regulator's on board with. So yes, that amount of money is enough, and those are the big milestones. Then you certify, and off you go.
Just one more from me. What makes the ability to carry more load? Is it design features, material? Is it the weight of the components? What is it?
So the simplest thing is, at day one, this company built an aircraft that's bigger. It's simply got a larger tube under the wings, so you can put more stuff in it. Because we knew that from day one, bigger tube, that we'd already put more people in, more luggage in, we designed a battery to cope with that. So it goes back to day one, bigger tube, then you design a bigger battery. And it's all in the plan and underpinned. So thank you. I think the next question was the gentleman in the second row, and then onto the front row. Actually, it was the one at the end, but don't worry.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Andre Shepard from Cantor Fitzgerald. Hi, Domhnal, Stuart, Michael, good to see you. Samuel, Gillian, thank you so much for having us. You know, I guess as someone who's been covering the industry for 4 years, I'll happily share that I think certification and commercialization is not really a question of if, it's a question of when this will happen, and we're getting closer and closer. I guess my question is can you just remind us, in terms of the aircraft today, what components are being manufactured in-house versus what are you currently outsourcing? And separately, and I think maybe I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but can we perhaps talk about also the defense and the military side? Because defense is an area, as you guys know better than we do, that does not require FAA or EASA certification. So is that an opportunity to maybe commercialize ahead of those certifications? Thank you.
So I'll take that one first. We are, the core business, certify the electric aircraft. The hybrid is a fast follower. It'll be certified in 29, so it's not going to accelerate. But that's fine. We're comfortable with that. In terms of where we're at with what we do and what's pushed outside, we're an integrator. We're working with the best tier 1 suppliers in the world. aerospace ready, they know how to certify. That's how we're approaching this, and it's one of the things that sets us apart. But the aircraft you've seen flying, 90+% representative of the final aircraft in terms of the technology. It's got Honeywell's flight control system on it, for example. This is why the de-risk from a technical and certification perspective is so enormous. 20 seconds and it's done. We basically lock it down, finalise some design components, and off we go. So thank you. I think the gentleman on the end has had his hand up from the start.
Thank you. Will Geisbon at the Air Current, thanks for having me. So a couple questions. One, I understand the $700 million is in addition to what you've already spent. And so I'm kind of like to understand what you've spent to this date. And then two, we'd really like to understand a little bit more about why you are so confident in that number. I think, like, especially on things with like certification timelines and money spent, like many others in this room covered this industry for a while, like those promises are almost never kept. So we'd like to understand what you guys are thinking about of why you feel like you have good line of sight to making sure that you will confidently meet that number. As like you said, it's quite different than what others have projected. Thanks.
Yeah.
Nice question
I think that's because
there.
we know what we're doing, as I said. We are industry leading in understanding what we are doing and how you do it to bring it to certification. So I reset the timeline last year. We've hit every single milestone, no single reset. We will not be resetting. We will certify in 28. And the 700, that's going forward.
Okay.
So.
And can you share how much you've spent on to this point?
I don't want to give you a number because I'll probably get it plus minus a bit wrong, but it's the way to look at it is we're sat here today, it's less than 700 going forward, right? And as Domhnal said, that's close to what some of our peers spend in a year, right? But we have clarity, it's underpinned. The reason I'm certain is manufacturing got those contracts in place. All the build costs or the engineering, 75% are either contracted or quoted. Right? It can't be that wrong. And with Patrick's support on eVTOL, as he explained, this minimises the chance of late surprises. There may be one, but relative to everyone else, we don't have to go to the Middle East, right? We're certifying here in Europe. We're going to deliver an aircraft that can fly in every single market in the world in 2028. Hopefully that answers it. I think Savvy,
Little jab at Joby and Archer. I like it.
Front row.
Hey, thanks. Savi Syth, Raymond James. Maybe a question for Patrick.
Yep.
On the certification front, I thought because eVTOL is so spelled out, there aren't surprises, but I was kind of surprised to hear about Volocopter's experience. I wonder if you could talk about, what you've seen at other eVTOL or manufacturers that haven't made it there, and what specifically Vertical is doing that's different. And maybe a quick question for after that is just what you mentioned, 75% that's contracted. I was curious what the other 25% was as well.
Yeah. Patrick, do you want to go?
So I'm not sure I would be allowed to go into the specifics of each and every failure. What happened, as far as I know, because I was no longer in EASA when it happened with Volocopter, is that they had to make a major change of design 3 months before the expected TC type certificate date, involving the change of supplier, which makes it extremely difficult. And that's what we have seen so far. When you, as a certification authority, when after, as Stuart rightly said, there is a critical moment in the certification process, which is the so-called CDR, Critical Design Review, where all the design is frozen, so you don't change anymore. If you see that after that date, the design is still fluctuating, that's usually not a good sign, because it means that the models which were used for the design are not solid enough. And usually it provides you with a good sign that there will be difficulties in the future.
And were you asking what was the 25% we've not contracted? So we have 75%, including every major component set, airframe, flight controls, EPUs, either contracted or quoted. So we haven't done the titanium bolts we need, haven't done the airframe seats, haven't done the covers for the seats. I mean, it's that kind of level. Every single thing, major component set, is under contract or quoted. Hopefully that answers it. Hi, Andreas. I think this is probably the last one, and I think we're running out of time. We need to give everyone a break. There'll be plenty more time for Q&A at the end. So,
Hi,
Austin.
Hi, Austin Moore, Canaccord. You talked a little bit about the gas turbine engine that you plan to have for aircraft 3 and put that in Q1 26. So I was at the facility in June and I saw the gas engine that you were working on at the Vertical Energy Center. Just to clarify, is that the one that you're putting in aircraft 3, or are you still sourcing an alternative engine to be the part of the hybrid powertrain for aircraft 3?
We've got 3 options on the gas turbine engine, and it will be a gas turbine engine in aircraft 3, not the one you saw, the combustion engine. And it won't be Q1, by the way. It'll be middle of the year. We'll have the hybrid flying.
Okay. And just to follow up, when you talk about 25% of the 2035 revenues being for the batteries, are you planning to service the batteries for the planes either at third-party MRO shops, or will you be like shipping maintenance kits from the VEC to other MRO shops, or would you be operating your own at different sites throughout Europe?
The hypothesis at the minute is we'd outsource the operation of the MRO, because the way you make the money is actually supplying the battery. We don't need to hold facilities and employ fitters down the line. The optimum is we've designed the battery, they need a new one every year, we sell that to them. That's where the margin opportunity is. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yep, that makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the questions. Thank you, everyone, for the questions. I'm sure there's more, but we are due to have a quick break. About 7 minutes. If we could all be back in here, that would be great. Thank you very much.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Let me just send this message. Very interesting. A lot of updates, a lot of bold news. This is great. I actually love it because I'm feeling like I'm part of it. I'm literally feeling like I'm in the room with everyone, with the investors and with the analysts and the directors. But yeah, some great updates on the business. Definitely the upscaling of the guidance is great. The production facility in Cotswold is very good. Very good sign for Vertical as well, because they have everything at their home, in their test ground as well, on their base. So that's definitely beneficial for Vertical. They will also make the rollout of the aircraft easier as well, because you have some testing and some test flights and certain processes. So that will be much easier because you don't have to move your aircraft from your factory to the airport, to the base, and fly it. So, yeah, that's great. The financial guidance. Let's see how this holds through the next coming quarters, because $700 million is a lot. So let's see how Vertical face this. Quite surprising was the last answer, when we have 3 options for the gas turbine for the hybrid. That's good. That's telling me they have really been looking into it very deeply, and they are ready for it. But the test flight first half, not the first quarter, is also good update, because at least there won't be disappointment. Now the investors can realign and gauge to it, and there will not be any disappointment. And so far, Vertical have been delivering. They haven't missed any of their targets. They haven't missed any of their goals. So since Stuart Simpson has taken over as the CEO, the company has been literally charging at their business strategy, Flight Path 2030. So that's great. Some great updates. Aircraft 3 will be coming out very shortly. Aircraft 3 is the carbon copy, as they call it, of this aircraft. And later later next year. Oh, sorry, not later next year. First half of next year, it will be fitted with the hybrid power unit, which will be batteries and gas turbine. So Vertical are targeting and promising up to 1,000-mile range. Let's see if they can deliver. But as you heard, they have been working on this power unit. They have been testing it for almost 2 years now. So they have enough data, enough experience already with it, and enough results. So I'm really looking forward to the next earnings call when we hear some more updates. This could be amazing and thrilling to see if they are keeping up to their goals and their business strategy or not. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments. If you are rewatching the video, let me know in the chat if you are watching with me. We are waiting for the main audience. Martyn is streaming the main event. Let me just bring it to you on the screen. Martyn is streaming the FOMC report, and we are waiting. Is it this one? That's me. Hang on. Because we are now on the level of BBC, CNN, and the big animals. We can run 2 events and 3 events, up to 3 events parallel. So Martyn can go live, I can go live, and Sensei can go live, and you can pick. It's literally like telly. You don't even pick up your remote. You can just click with your mouse or whatever, and you select whatever stream you like. So Martyn is there with the FOMC report, having great audience. We are waiting for them, so I can give you the 3rd magic number for our $2,000 giveaway. So they'll be joining us shortly. Those who missed the numbers, in the link under the video, in the comments, there's a pinned link to this event, to the FOMC report. If you go there, you will find your lucky number in Martyn's event there. So what is the stock chart doing? I don't think it's affecting anything because we haven't had. I think we are waiting for some further financial guidance from Vertical as the market. Let's see what we can hear in the conference as well. Let me just get back to the event and see if we, just bringing this on the screen so you are all up to scratch. I don't really know what the reaction is going to be because we have a lot of positive news. We also have the financial challenge. The 700 million is a lot, but I was going to say that Vertical have filed. They have shelved filing of their offering as well. So there could be some more dilutions along the way. They have done recently one last week. There was no overreaction because it's a gradual, it's at the market dilution. It's not that boom, they chuck at the market 30 million shares or whatever. It's just gradual dilution of, I think, 12 million shares, and it will not affect your investment your investor position. So it's the least harmful way, which will bring another, I believe, $60 million of capital to Vertical Aerospace. So again, that goes towards the 700 millions for the certification cost. So definitely the earnings call will be something I want to see. I want to track if they are keeping on their flight path 2030 business strategy. We are waiting for the FOMC report to finish. Very soon we will get the big audience coming in. I'm expecting a lot of comments in the chat, and I'll give you the 3rd magic number. We are covering, those who just joined us, we are covering Capital Markets Day with Vertical Aerospace exclusively on Martyn Lucas Investor. We have great relationship with Vertical Aerospace, and I would like to thank again to Vertical Aerospace for letting us to bring this to you exclusively. Nobody else broadcasts this, and you wouldn't see this on YouTube or anywhere else. So, or any other media. So thank you very much, Vertical. Thank you, Samuel, the investor relations director or manager. Thank you very much for this exclusive opportunity. We are covering Vertical Aerospace very often. We dedicate substantial amount of airtime to them, and they have been part of the show multiple times So that's great. That's part of this, part of the journey. I'm so happy we can be on the journey with you. So I think the event will be the main event. The FOMC report is finishing any minute. Martyn is now sending the audience. I'm watching him on my tablet. Let me just put it there. So Martyn will send the main audience here in the very minute. Let's welcome the main audience. And I'm just watching Martyn talking. I'm listening what he's saying. How much time we've got. And Angie is giving me update that Jerome just ended. Thank you. So Martyn will send the main audience to us shortly. We are on break currently. The event, the conference will be continuing any minute. We should get some more directors talking. We will get Michael Cervenka, who's the technical director, and it will be very deep, very detailed, but very interesting. He will tell you, no doubt, he will tell you all the information about the aircraft, actual aircraft. I know it because I spent a lot of time with him in the Royal International Air Tattoo, the biggest UK air show, British air show, and I had great chat with him. I loved it. Yeah, it will be very thorough and very detailed, but very technical and very interesting and important as well. No doubt he will be comparing the aircraft to... Rhino Skin says, we have been the main audience. Yes, you have. So, yeah, we'll get a lot of lay down about the aircraft, a lot of updates, and probably some comparison to their peers as well. If not, I will give you some, because I know some fun facts as well. So at the end of the stream, I can complement that information for you. The main event is about to finish soon on the other stream. We now have the broadcast live, up and running. So any second, we will come to the interesting part again. There was a cigarette break.
Whilst we're waiting for the room to fill up, I wanted to address a question. I was getting a sense that people don't believe the $700 million. Okay? And that's fine. So I want to try and give you a strategic framework to think about it. When we started thinking about how we wanted to run this business 4 or 5 years ago, we made a decision at the time that we would run an outsourced tier 1 model, that we would partner with the Honeywells and the Accenturies of this world. Our competitors at the time made a decision that they wanted to vertically integrate. And the rationale for the decision at the time was they felt that they could innovate faster. And there's a logic to that. The downside of that strategy is it costs a lot of money. If you think about, we've got 400 people on staff. Some of our US competitors have 2 or 3 times that. And what we found in the last, particularly the last 2 years, is that our tier 1 suppliers are as nimble and as adaptable in their ability to innovate as I can imagine. Honeywell being an excellent example. The second is, we're based in the UK. An aerospace engineer in the UK costs 60% lower than the same aerospace engineer with the same experience in California. That's just a fact. So how do we get to these lower numbers? We have less people on staff at a lower price point. That's how you get to the number. So I think it's important as people go to think about that, that's the rigor of ultimately the 700 million. Now, it's a thrill for me to welcome a former colleague of mine. This will be very interesting,
and we are getting the FOMC audience literally in few seconds. So brace yourselves.
Avalon is
the front row will get very busy.
In 2010, and today, if not the second largest, maybe it's the third largest. It's big, Jim, right? It's big. Jim is responsible for the implementation, oversight, and the continued development of Avalon's risk management strategy, and ultimately positioning Avalon for success. Jim was part of the team that worked with me 4 or 5 years ago when we started to look at electric aircraft flight and whether Avalon should take a position in that marketplace. So I know he's as passionate as I am about aviation in general. He's an MIT graduate and one of the most amazing colleagues that I ever had the opportunity to work with. So will you join your hands and welcome Jim Morrison, Chief Risk Officer of Avalon, to the stage. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for the introduction, Dodo. It's a pleasure to be here, and this is always a project and a product that we're very passionate about at Avalon. So Domhnal already introduced me. I do have oversight at Avalon on our clean tech projects, on our sustainability agenda, and thinking forward into the future about how we position our portfolio, our capital, to be able to drive strong returns into the future. So a lot of what I do with my team is actually thinking about what's the next trend around the corner. So in this presentation, I want to cover 4 things. First, who is Avalon? Second, I want to speak a bit about why we chose the VX4 and Vertical to partner with when we entered the space back in 2021. Third, I want to share some learnings that we've had over the last 4 years from our joint working groups. And then fourthly, I want to talk about why we remain committed to this project, even 4 years later, after evaluating 24 other AAM clean tech programs that are available around the world. So, to get into it, I have about 7 slides to go through. So first, who is Avalon? We're a top 3 aircraft leasing company in the world, and today, in large commercial aircraft, about half of all aircraft are leased. Airlines own on balance sheet about half of their fleets, and they lease from third parties about half of their fleet as well too. Avalon, today we have around 540 aircraft that are delivered that we're leasing to airlines around the world. We have 142 different airline customers. We're operating in 60 plus different countries. And we have one of the world's largest order books of committed aircraft to deliver from today out to 2033. So over 530 aircraft that we have on order with Airbus and Boeing to deliver. So that positions us uniquely amongst our leasing peers with both the depth into our customers' markets as well as the scale of our operations. One of the things we're very proud at Avalon is being forward-thinking, about thinking what is that next trend. We were the launch customer for an A320neo family aircraft back in 2012, 737 MAX aircraft from Boeing in 2012, A330neos in 2014, excuse me, as well as the VX4 back in 2021. So we're constantly looking for what is the next innovative strategy that will change the game. Now, I want to step back and think about some of the trends that we're seeing today from our airline customers around the world. And last decade, when we saw airlines, passenger booking trends, you think as a passenger buying a ticket on an airline, you'd be thinking about the schedule and the price. Does the airline get me to where I want to go at the price that I want to pay? Today, that's changed. There's been a shift in consumer demand, and we're seeing it in our customers, both here in the US as around the world. That shift is passengers are more and more focused on what is that experience that they have and what's the impact that they have through their travel as well too. So some data to support that trend. On the left-hand side here, we have revenue trends, the revenue growth quarter over quarter for full-service carriers in the US, network carriers, versus low-cost carriers. For the last 6 quarters, network carriers have been outgrowing the revenues of low-cost carriers. Now, that's not just a US trend. The other side of this chart, the right-hand side, shows from the last 6 years, ultimately, premium passenger travel, business passenger fares have been growing faster than economy, low-cost travel fares, as well has been stronger market for airlines to sell into. So why do I bring that up? Because there is a trend here where airlines need to find ways to generate higher revenues to differentiate the product. And we believe that eVTOL is a way for
welcome the FOMC report audience from the other event. We are covering Capital Markets Day with Vertical Aerospace exclusively on Martyn Lucas Investor. I'm Vaz, and I'm moderating and bringing this event to you. Let me wait for everyone to join in, and then I will give you a lucky number in 1 minute. Let me just check if everyone is here, and as soon as we get all people in from the previous event, I will give you the magic number for our $2,000 giveaway.
Vertical. So there's about 6 reasons up here on this slide that I'll go through now. So the first one is that we did due diligence. We looked around the market. What are the opportunities to invest in when it comes to AAM space? What are the different clean tech vehicles in which could attract our capital and our focus? Vertical scored the highest on our scorecard and ultimately attracted both our investment in their pipe back in 2021.
Right,
as well as
I think everyone is here. So your magic number is, brace yourselves.
The second point that I want to bring
Oh,
up
before we do
is
that,
about
don't
what
forget to hit the
our
like button.
asking for. And
Hit the
our
like button. If you don't hit the like button, I'm not telling you your magic number.
that changes their cost
Have you hit your like button?
that allows them to fly
Right,
with
we
a
are
lower
covering
environmental
Capital
impact
Markets Day
and that adapts
with
to
Vertical
now.
Aerospace exclusively on Martyn Lucas Investor. I'm Vaz, and I'm bringing this event to you. Your magic number for the $2,000 giveaway, your last magic number out of the three is 8456. 8456. If you add it together with the previous two numbers from the previous event, that's your magic number. And also, if you are watching this and if you missed the first part, under the video, in the chat, wherever, everywhere is pinned, and after we finish, it will take you back to the previous event, so you will get your magic number again. So I will say it one last time, your magic number is 8456. If you missed it, you would have to rewind back.
Vertical is certifying under the EASA regime with the UK CAA is critical to our business
Now
model.
watching, we are getting some updates. The CEO, Stuart Simpson, gave us great business updates on Vertical Aerospace and their strategy going forward. He gave us some solid numbers for the end of the decade and beyond. And now one of their customers is talking, which is quite important because we are hearing the demand of the customers and of the market as well.
Vertical is thinking about those key partnerships that they bring in other resources into their certification process that both de-risks the certification, makes it cost effective, but also aligns the interests of both the supply chain and the customers that is more likely to have success into the future. That was a key reason for us for selecting Vertical. That vested interest of partners complements our business model and ensures that we drive to success into the future. And the final reason on this slide is ultimately that we believe the VX4 is a differentiated product. It's a product that has the largest cabin in the sector. It's also a product that has demonstrated its versatility with applications within special missions, within a hybrid configuration, and really the 6-passenger option within the cabin is a huge differentiator if you're looking to be able to produce capacity that is available to the masses, that has the lowest unit operating costs, and that enables fares to drive a broader market opportunity when this aircraft is certified and in operating service. So, when we launched this program back in 2021 with Vertical,
This is the aircraft they are talking about.
This was our fastest placement program of all time. So I spoke about Avalon as a launch customer from multiple aircraft programs throughout its history. Within 8 months, we fully placed out 500 aircraft with partners around the world. Generally, when we go to place a new aircraft order, it'll take 3 to 7 years before we actually ultimately place those aircraft with our customers around the world. And we did so with a variety of airlines on continents all over the world, as well as with different business models, both full-service carriers, such as Japan Airlines, as well as low-cost carriers, such as GOL in Brazil, AirAsia in Southeast Asia as well, too. It demonstrates the interest that we have found in our customer base around the world to innovate business models, to expand the revenue base, and ultimately to open new market opportunities. So once we placed these aircraft back in 2021, 2022, we needed to understand what is the business case that will drive the most value for our customers and for Avalon, because we are creating new markets here. This is a new technology that enables new ecosystems that we need to learn together about what is the investment case. So we quickly launched joint working groups with each of the customers in which we...
If you just joined in for your magic number, you need to rewind back about 2 to 5 minutes. I already gave it to you, and I'm not saying that again. So if you want your magic number, rewind back 10 minutes and then watch the next 5 minutes, you will get it.
So GOL is a strong customer of Avalon. We've done business with them on the 737-800, the 737 MAX aircraft in the past as well, too. To launch a program with a trusted partner on the VX4 was very exciting for us. The first market that we looked at for the VX4 was in Sao Paulo. So you think of Sao Paulo, an urban area that has 20 million residents in it, a large sprawl with multi-airport system, as well as high levels of traffic congestion within that urban area as well too. So for example, to get from the central business district in Sao Paulo out to the international airport can take on average more than 60 minutes, 67, 68 minutes by our own research. That flight time is 11 minutes. Now, the bigger issue in Sao Paulo is the uncertainty around that traffic. So maybe on average it takes 67 minutes, but sometimes it can take multiples of that. So if you're an airline passenger and you've ever had to fight the traffic in Brazil to get to the airport, you're leaving extra time to be able to get there. So to de-risk that actually offers a really differentiated product for passengers who are looking for, willing to pay a premium price, but also are looking for a different experience as well too. What we found in Sao Paulo is that it's also the largest helicopter market in the world. So today there's 400 helicopters that are registered in the state of Sao Paulo. So that means that the infrastructure is actually largely already in place. The opportunity with eVTOL is to invest in charging stations, to adapt infrastructure to enable passengers to access it, as well as to clear the way for branding and that passenger experience from the ground to the flight. So with an eVTOL from door to door, you can take what is a 60 or 70 minute travel time and break that down to half of that time, to 30 minutes, if you still account for the road transport to the vertiport and up to the sky. So next example I'll bring up is Japan Airlines, in a leading full-service carrier in Japan. Japan Airlines is an innovative, thoughtful airline that's thinking about the future. It's thinking about how to leverage innovation technology in a very unique market, which drives a fairly large portion of premium travel as well too. So at Japan Airlines, we placed 100 aircraft back in 2022, and we were focusing first in our joint working group on the region around Osaka. So in Osaka, there's about 19 million residents in that broader metropolitan area and prefecture. There's multiple cities. Kyoto, Kobe are very close by, within a 50-kilometer radius. There's also multiple airports that Japan Airlines had interest in serving. And this year, Osaka is hosting the World Fair as well too, which means has heightened the level of infrastructure investment in tourists as well too. So what we learned in that region is that there's opportunities to both attract premium passengers as well as to connect tourist attractions throughout the broader region and significantly cut down on travel times. Throughout Japan, there's broader opportunities within other urban areas, Tokyo, but as well as in the north to connect mountains, which are disparate and geographically dispersed, as well as in the south, where many islands are connected only by ferries. So there's many different use cases that we were able to find within this joint working group. So
this will be one of the first markets to adapt the eVTOL concept, Japan as well. And it's expecting to start second half of next year.
Both joint working groups in each of our customers, but as well as doing evaluations of hybrid aircraft, of hydrogen-powered aircraft, of other battery electric aircraft as well too. Well, it's ultimately because of the value creation opportunities across the ecosystem. So eVTOLs will enable new ways of doing businesses, both on the ground, when we think about the vertiports and the infrastructure that's required, the charging stations, in the air, the aircraft, as well as the services opportunities that come with this new ecosystem too, whether that's through batteries, but as well as maintenance, repair, and overhaul too. And finally, the opportunities to provide financing throughout that broader ecosystem. So at Avalon, we remain very excited about this opportunity. We're looking forward to our customers flying first revenue services in 2028, 2029. And ultimately, this is an opportunity that we remain committed to. So thank you very much for the time, and I'll pass the mic back to Domhnal.
This was one of the customers talking. You could hear the market demand. You could hear what the eVTOL concept is about.
Just going to get a couple of seats on the stage. But again, I ask you to think about vertical aerospace and think about the differentiators at a strategic level. If an aircraft program is to be successful today, it has to have a top-tier aircraft lessor supporting the program. None of our competitors, not one, is a top-tier aircraft lessor as a customer. That is telling. And having the distribution capability that Avalon has globally, it's the same strategy as us partnering with OEMs on the Tier 1. When you have a Tier 1 lessor spreading the news and the gospel globally, it's a very powerful messaging system. And I'm delighted that Avalon has continued to be at the forefront of the cheerleader for this asset class. Now, you rarely get a chance to introduce and welcome one of the true aviation entrepreneurs of the world, genuinely. If you do the step back and you look at all of the great airlines of the world, there's very few that would take the time to get on an airplane from Kuala Lumpur and fly 19 hours to come to a capital markets day in the Palace Hotel. And the reason Tony Fernandes has done that is because he, first of all, is a great friend of mine. He was one of the first globally to see the future with respect to the VX4. But most importantly, he reflects the possibilities and the potential for this aircraft in Asia, which is the fastest growing aviation market in the world. Think about the following metric. I used to use this all of the time at Avalon. Every single year, there are 100 million people from India east moving up from a sort of a working class level to a middle class level, who are getting on aircraft and airlines for the first time. They are the passengers for the VX4 in the next decade. Tony Fernandes, unquestionably, was the guy who democratized air travel in Asia. He started with two little aircraft, and he now runs the largest low-cost airline in Southeast Asia. So it's genuinely pretty cool to have him here. And I think Savi Saith, who is going to attempt to fireside chat him. Where are you, Savi? There you are. I think she's equally thrilled to have the opportunity to meet with Tony. So would you all put your hands together and welcome Savi and Tony.
Those who just joined, we are covering Capital Markets Day with Vertical Aerospace exclusively on Martyn Lucas Investor. Nobody else is broadcasting this and bringing this to you live, apart from Vertical Aerospace. But you need to have your connections, as we do. If you join for the magic number, I said your last magic number about 15-20 minutes ago, so unfortunately you will have to rewind back and catch it. Say rewind 20 minutes back and watch it for 5-10 minutes, and you will get it.
For those not familiar, Tony and his partner bought AirAsia back in 2001, and they took a unprofitable airline and turned it into a profitable one within a year of converting it into a low-cost airline, taking the models that you've seen at Southwest and Ryanair and really adapting it to Asia. And as Dolan mentioned, it started with 2 aircraft, and now we're up to over 250 fleet, so kind of a formidable competitor in that space. And what's interesting is that they've been named the world's best low-cost airline by Skytrax for the last 16 years in a row, which is a great achievement on that front as well. So, and AirAsia kind of leads in other fronts as well. There's technology and logistics where they've been showing leadership. And the reason I'm excited to have this opportunity to ask Tony about the eVTOL opportunity is not only has he a kind of successful track record of being a very successful entrepreneur, but he has a reputation for being brutally honest. Now, I've not mentioned this is my meeting you for the first time, so I'm looking forward to really hearing what you think. So, Tony, thank you for making that long trip and for being here.
Pleasure. Thanks for
the
being
audio
here.
is slightly behind. It's not our fault. It's just the stream. It's about 5-6 seconds behind. So please excuse this little nuisance.
Is just how do you envision eVTOLs, the role that eVTOLs will play in Asia and within AirAsia particularly?
Yeah, maybe just before we do that, just to set the scene in Southeast Asia and ourselves, we had a phenomenal growth we went through, and it's incredibly difficult because we were competing against government-owned airlines that were subsidized and in some cases had no interest in making money. So we were able to grow. We have a fantastic order book. And then COVID came along. And so we were grounded. We lost $10 billion of revenue in that period. We didn't get any support from the government or any governments in Southeast Asia. And we innovated to create 6 companies from our airline assets called Capital A, which go from logistics to digital assets to MROs, et cetera. And so that innovation has been very much in our DNA. It enabled us to survive. We're now back flying all our aircraft. We had a record last quarter. And so we're always looking for where do we go next. When Domhnal and Vertical approached us, coming from our part of the world, and the growth is phenomenal. We went from 2 planes to 260, as you mentioned, but from 200,000 passengers in our first year in 2002 to 90 million, making us the 4th largest airline in Asia, not just Southeast Asia. And that growth came from really secondary cities, connecting secondary cities to secondary cities, tertiary cities. We're the largest foreign airline to China, largest foreign airline to India. And so when eVTOLs came along and we saw what was there, it isn't a low-cost product at the moment. I believe it will evolve, and there's other versions being made. Of course, we push Vertical to say, put more seats, we want night flying, etc. But with our experience and looking at the market and how we connected secondary and tertiary cities, there's a whole lot of routes due to infrastructure constraints in Southeast Asia, which opens up a massive opportunity for eVTOLs in Asia. And so we're very excited. There's a lot of challenges ahead, but I think the opportunity is there. In the first instance, it's a higher end market than AirAsia. And as Domhnal mentioned, we did democratize flying by bringing people in. People have left us and gone on to premium airlines. So this is a evolutionary thing, and that's going to happen with the eVTOLs. And what happened during COVID, we had no choice but to go into logistics. And in 3 years, we went from 0 to, we just overtook Singapore Airlines as the #1. We see a monstrous opportunity also in the logistics field. So it's exciting. It's a long journey. The resilience shown by Vertical is phenomenal. And we are firm believers. How we would structure this eVTOL is not within the AirAsia group, but within our other group, Capital A, and probably set up a different division to do this, because it isn't truly low cost at the moment, and create probably a Pan-Asian eVTOL company that could be separately listed at some point. But using the DNA of what we've got, the 6 companies we've built in Capital A are all about efficiency, are all about inclusivity, and having great people, but bringing that into this eVTOL company that we're looking at setting up and attacking a new market, which we've generally been good at. And we think the market opportunity is massive.
That was a lot in there. That's super interesting. So maybe, how do you see it starting early days? Is this, between secondary cities to airports?
Well, no. If you take some of the capital cities in my playground, Kuala Lumpur, Jakarta, or Bangkok, within a sphere of 1 hour, what should be a 1 hour journey because of traffic, because of infrastructure, could take 2 to 3 hours. So that first instance is connecting the major capital cities with tourism destinations, with even in our part of the world, taking 6 golfers to play what would take 2 hours to get there, to casinos. So the first instance is taking people from airports or capital cities to destinations that traditionally would have taken much longer to take by car, and where the time value of money compensates for the fare they're going to pay.
This is the future of eVTOLs. You are listening to one of the operators, and he's now talking what the eVTOL concept is about. It's not only about United States. Asian market is massive.
And just to drive from Kuala Lumpur to a beach with the normal traffic conditions is potentially 2.5 hours, which would be, butchered by, in a positive way, by an eVTOL.
I'm just looking forward to that. To talk about you kind of talked about Domhnal and the VX being brought to you. Like, what attracted to you? I mean, you're a smart guy. You probably looked at what other opportunities there are. Like, what attracted you to the VX aircraft?
Well, I came from the music business. I knew nothing about aircraft. I actually spectacularly resigned not far from here, 75 Rockefeller, when the AOL merger was announced. I went through 3 mergers at Warner Communications. It came Time Warner, where they created EBITDA, earnings before everything you don't like, and then cash flow. What about the $8 billion in the balance sheet? Then CNN, and then finally AOL, which I thought was the craziest merger. And I resigned and went to London, was having a beer thinking what I was going to do, and I saw Stelios owned an airline called EasyJet on TV. I took a bus to Luton Airport, and I always say in speeches there's a fine line between brilliance and stupidity. I decided to start an airline. That brilliance versus stupidity is still in judgment call right now. But I met Domhnal Slattery, so that's a big plus.
That's great.
But what attracted me, I knew nothing about airlines or running an airline, but I was like, well, if I can bring the cost down, I have a population of 3 billion potentially in my playground, and I can create a new market. That's the same feeling I have when Domhnal, in New York actually, at the Wings Club, presented me this idea, and I thought, wow, I love Blue Ocean, I love creating new things, and I just instantly, I look at the market potential when I look at starting a new business, and I saw a massive market potential, and we had the added advantage of having run an efficient airline all this time.
Makes sense. Was there anything on kind of the when you talk to and provide feedback on the VX for like what you'd like to see?
Well, because of our low-cost DNA, and this isn't a low-cost product at the moment, but we still want it to be as affordable as possible, right? So, I know the engineers, these are difficult things, but we would love more seats, for instance, and I'm sure new versions will have that. We want to fly the aircraft as much as possible. AirAsia flies our A320s 14 hours. Airbus will certify that's the most of any airline.
You will hear about the more seat configuration in a minute.
Because we have more trips. And so, we talked about night flying as well. The peak times in Asia are, 7:30 at night. Traffic is, you can be in a gridlock, and early morning. And I've just talked to you about Southeast Asia, by the way. We haven't talked about Korea and Japan and China and India. The potential for eVTOLs is massive. So yeah, I'm just looking at it from my experience. Even though it's a premium product, I want it to be as affordable as possible. And so those are the kind of things we were talking about. And understanding battery technology, the efficiency of how often you would charge and removing batteries, what were the most effective ways. And then for us, our biggest, we have partners in airports, right? And we've had a tough time with airports in our part of the world because they're generally government owned. Recently, GIP/BlackRock bought Malaysian airports, and I negotiate. And that's transformed my business because you've got a private business who sees us as a massive customer and wants us to do more. And in 6 months, we've achieved a lot. So that was a concern of mine. And the way the aircraft operates, it's a much simpler operation to have landing fields, and it's a helicopter, basically. So there's lots of already readily available sites. The next point is how do we manage, air traffic control? It flies at a height that doesn't require the stringent regulation. So those are the sorts of things we need to think about, and then obviously the pilots, etc.
So it seems like the early infrastructure is somewhat in place. What are the challenges as you think about kind of setting up this organization that's going to look at Southeast Asia, Pan-Asia, eVTOL service? Like, where do you think the challenges are early days?
The regulators, I think,
good
would
question.
be the big challenge. And I mean, I think over the last 3 years, getting the aircraft into service, whether it's FAA, EASA, and then all the Asian regulators. Obviously, if FAA and EASA get it, then it becomes easier in our part of the world. But it's a first of kind. And regulators are generally risk averse. And that's going to be the biggest, and why I'm optimistic is because they've gone a long way. They have regulators on their board who understand the challenges, but I think it's first in kind, and regulators are risk averse, and as they should be. We have enough incidences out there. So for us as a commercial operator, we're raring to go. We need to be in a position to go, and I think we can scale up very quickly once the regulations are in place, etc.
Last question, and this is a great kind of conversation we're having, and I really appreciate your time. But in terms of regulatory acceptance or even customer acceptance, how do you feel that part of the South Asia will kind of evolve? Do we need to see it elsewhere before adoption?
The market is closing in a minute. Watch the price go up after the closing bell.
I think, again, when I started flying at the fares that we had, which were generally about 50 or 60% lower than the national carriers, I think there was a lot of, who's this guy from the music business? Is it safe? I'm going to sit next to a chicken. Do I have to carry my bags to the plane, etc.? Then I sponsored Manchester United, and all things changed. Very painful for me because I hate that football club, but you have to sell yourself to the devil once in a while. And so, we've carried 1 billion people. Generally, most of them have never flown before. And so put a good product out there, price it appropriately, customer acceptance will be there. Because the best marketing comes from the people who have flown the product when they say, I've done this. So customer, I'm not worried about. Because for Vertical to get approved, it's going to have to go through a lot and prove its safety, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm very clear about that. In terms of regulators in my part of the world, obviously, if it's EASA and FAA have accepted it, then it's going to be a lot easier coming into our port. But I think the more important thing is customer acceptance. Because a lot of people will be saying, do they think they're safe? But then you have the helicopter population, which has its major pluses and has major issues as well. So I'm not worried about it at all, because that was the first thing people say, oh, I'm not going to go on that, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think that's an issue at all. And Vertical have to do a lot of work on the regulation side, and that will assist customers such as us to go to market. So my issue is they have to do the work on the regulators, which they will. That's the big part. It will help me in my part of the world if EASA and FAA are done. But my job is to create a product that customers want, feel confident in, feel safe in, and enjoy the product, and give a good word of mouth to others. And that, I think, we can accomplish when Vertical give us the aircraft, or eVTOL.
For investors, maybe to wrap it up, what do you think we should be asking, we should be paying attention as we look to this industry that you're focused on?
Well, I think the market is there, right? The cost and what is the revenue, what is demand versus the price you're going to charge is going to be key in my mind. Obviously, the product, there's stuff to be done still. I think there's some big days coming up, and we've been following it very closely because we're excited. And then the regulations, which we've talked a lot about, right? I think investors need to see two things. Can this generate positive cash flow, which originates from strong revenue and revenue growth? I think that's there. That's a given. Can we get the right cost structure, which it appears to be able to be done in all parts of the world, not just, New York. And again, that's it. Demand, price, good product. Because by the time you get there, it has to pass the regulators anyway. And finally, investors should also look at AirAsia and Capital A, since I...
Really appreciate it, Tony. Thank you.
That's why I came 22 hours, just to tell you that. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
That was great. That was some great information from the actual operator. And now we're going to hear the most interesting part. I believe next one is Michael Cervenka, the chief, he's the technical director.
As Patrick mentioned in his remarks, ultimately an OEM is...
We should get some info about the aircraft.
And what that means, you need the absolute best brains in the world in your aerospace engineering faculty. And unquestionably at Vertical, we believe that we have that in the UK. But right at the top of that pyramid are two individuals who are recognized globally as simply the best of the best. Now, they couldn't be here today, so just checking if this side of the house is still alive. But I'm going to invite these two guys on the stage, Michael Cervenka and David King. Guys, if you just come up and I'll give a brief background on you.
This will be the most interesting part. You will get so much update and so much info about the aircraft. Don't go anywhere. If you're interested in this concept and in eVTOLs, you will know first and last. You will know the eVTOL in and out after this.
And he is ultimately responsible to get this aircraft engineered to a point at which it will be safely certified. He has spent over 30 years in the aerospace industry. He is what we affectionately call an aerosexual. You're alive. Good. He's had a stellar career at Leonardo, at Bell Helicopters and at Boeing. And he was the chief engineer on the AW609, which is set to be the first new category aircraft to be certified in over 50 years. That was David's airplane. Michael Cervenka joined Vertical in 2019. We headhunted Michael from Rolls-Royce, where he was head of future business technology. So his job was to think around the corner, like what's next? No blinding glimpses of the obvious from Mr. Cervenka. And so he has been key to our story over the last 6 years, central to our strategy, and now is the voice of Vertical to our customers globally. So put your hands together for these two individuals, Michael and David.
Thank you, Domhnal. Always challenging to follow that. How do you compete? Anyway, so I'm an aeronautical engineer, so I certainly can't compete with the Irish sense of humour, but it's really great to have you all here. As Domhnal said, I've spent nearly 3 decades now really at the cutting edge of propulsion. And if you step back and think about it, I think Stuart and Domhnal touched on this, we're seeing the first disruption in aviation since the dawn of the jet age. And if you step back a level, what disrupts vehicles, transportation, it almost always comes from a disruption in the powertrain. So I've spent 3 decades pretty much right at the cutting edge of propulsion systems for aviation. I'm an aeronautical engineer. And about 10 years ago, as Domhnal said, I started working on future technologies reporting to the group CTO. And at that point, I saw we were reaching this tipping point where lightweight batteries, motors, composites, fly-by-wire systems were just going to completely open up a new type of vehicle. Against the wishes of the Rolls-Royce CEO, I decided to take one heck of a punt and join Vertical when they had, I think, 42 people. Some seriously smart engineers. If David's the father of the aircraft, I'm possibly the grandfather, because we certainly inherited something interesting, but it's been one hell of a ride. And central to all of that is the battery system. I think one of the questions earlier was, what does Vertical do? We do the whole aircraft, we do the propeller design, but fundamentally we also do the battery. And I think it's a key bit of the story that we don't tell often enough. Actually, we've had lots of people come and see us, and I think we're absolutely world-class in the batteries that we do. And I want to really just in the next few minutes, and I haven't got long, just talk to you a bit about why the battery is so important. It's not just a component. It's fundamental to the game-changing performance of the aircraft. And it's really our moat, our margin growth, and our platform for growth for the company. So if we step back, what do batteries have to do? They really have to excel in 3 areas. Firstly, they've got to achieve the highest levels of safety in aerospace. Secondly, they must deliver exceptional performance, and eVTOLs are particularly demanding in terms of what they require from the battery system. And finally, that's no good unless they're commercially viable. And our battery system delivers on all 3 fronts, and I'm going to try and bring that to life for you. So, starting with safety.
That's me on the screen talking to Michael in the Riyadh Royal International Air Tattoo, the biggest British air show. We brought you exclusive interview about the aircraft.
From a battery point of view, aviation batteries have to be safe under all expected and unexpected conditions, in flight and on the ground. And across the entire eVTOL industry, we're the only company developing batteries to this airline level of safety, what we call category enhanced. That is not just 1 in a billion failure rate. That is effectively multiple layers of protection, for example, against things like thermal runaway, and the highest levels of safety in all of the electronic hardware and software. This is airline levels of safety. To underpin that, we've conducted around about 200 thermal runaway tests. We've done multiple 50-foot drop tests. And we've really pushed our batteries through all manner of abuse tests: environmental tests, vibration, electromagnetic tests, lightning strikes, and all sorts of other tests. As Patrick, I think, really brought to life earlier, it's no good doing that unless you also know what rules you need to meet. And we've heard about the major advantages that EASA has. It's taken this consultative approach, and actually there was a European working group, we happen to chair it, but it's got all the best across the whole industry that for many years has been defining the exact battery regulations that we need to meet. So we're certain about the safety of the batteries because we've tested it, and we're certain about the regulations that we need to meet. So this isn't just some repurposed EV pack. It's an aviation battery-proven pack with the kinds of tests that the regulators expect. So, safety. Next is performance. Of course, a safe battery is no use unless it can deliver the required performance. And eVTOLs, as I mentioned, are particularly demanding. So they have very high power in takeoff. They need an efficient cruise. And then actually the most difficult bit is then to manage a high power landing with all of the safety reserves that you need. Batteries, of course, form a significant part of an eVTOL's weight. And unlike fuel, unfortunately, they don't get any lighter as you go through your mission. So every single pound of weight that we can scrape off the battery fundamentally enables us to offer greater payload, greater performance to our customers. We're targeting a battery system with over 200 watt-hours per kilogram at entry and service. There's lots of numbers bandied about, but the important bit I want you to take away is that is for the entire system, everything you see on the chart. That includes all of the battery management systems, the thermal management systems, all of the structural integrity, and actually also the high voltage protection systems that isolate the battery from the rest of the vehicle if needed. Our packs integrate the latest cylindrical cells that are already in mass manufacture, and that's really important in terms of the proven manufacturing quality and safety and cost. And those cells really combine high power, low impedance, and fast charging. And just to give you a sense, I think you heard a bit, and David's going to talk a lot more about just some of the rigor we've had to go through in the flight testing. But we've already done over 5 million hours of cell testing, so we really understand how these cells perform. Within our 3 generations of battery tests, we've conducted countless design, manufacture, test iterations at all levels, driving weight out whilst delivering that mechanical integrity, the ability for the battery to withstand shocks and vibrations. And we've built a deep technology moat through the thousands upon thousands of interrelated tweaks and improvements with an unbelievable level of attention to detail. I remember once a story actually where we were looking at how do we drill a hole out of a titanium bolt to get some weight out of it. That is the kind of attention to detail you need to deliver this sort of level of performance. And you can see that reflected on the chart in some of the improvements that we've seen. So we believe we're developing the highest performance batteries that safely unlock the VX4's disruptive capabilities. Of course, all of that, and we've touched throughout, none of this happens without the people. And they're really the special sauce. We've built crucial technology moats over many years, certainly over the 6 years I've been at the company, and it's all really down to the amazingly talented and skilled people that we've got. We've got a really best-in-class team. We've got about 60 people, very focused. But if you look at their backgrounds, they're alumni from McLaren, the former head of batteries at the European Space Agency, Jaguar Land Rover, Airbus, Rolls-Royce, Dyson. We've partnered with some of the world's leading academic institutions, including Oxford University, and we're deliberately combining this mix of cross-sector battery know-how with deep aerospace certification and safety expertise. That's the caliber of people you need to develop this kind of technology. And we've also put them in a really innovative environment. And one of the reasons I left an incumbent tier one to come and join Vertical was I fundamentally felt that at a platform level and a battery level, it took a different culture to develop and iterate at the rate we're doing. So this team innovates in our dedicated, what we call Vertical Energy Center, or a VEC, and it brings all of that design, assembly, testing into one place, and that just speeds up the pace of iteration. It unlocks the critical rapid learning cycles that we call alpha to epsilon, and these iterations gradually introduce additional levels of aerospace process control and manufacturing control as we progress through every major generation. So our edge is not just the pack, it's an organization and a culture that can iterate fast with safety in mind from day one. And finally, to talk about the commercial viability of the business opportunity. So on the commercial viability, as I've said, we've done millions of hours of testing, and that's enabled us to optimize things like the battery life, fast charging. So if you're doing short flights, the turnaround time is fundamental. Tony talked about how many flights are you doing a day. You've got to keep the aircraft in the air. Our batteries are also designed for refurbishment, and I think this is something that's quite unique in the industry. So we can reuse the high-value aerospace-grade composite casings, electronics, to improve the economics. And then the internal battery cell modules have got multiple second life use cases. And with the unrivaled upgradability of the aircraft that David's also going to talk about, the VX4 is quite simply going to get better and better. We're not only developing world-leading batteries for entry and service, we've embedded the capabilities to rapidly certify higher performance battery packs as new cells become available. This enables the customers the flexibility of increasing speed and range, or increasing the number of passengers from 4 to 5 to 6, offering the kind of game-changing operator economics that our customers are looking for. So that's the commercial viability. And then if we just talk about the business model, the best analogy I can think of for our aircraft and a battery is the equivalent of a profitable razor and razor blade economics. Batteries are replaced annually or more frequently depending on utilization, and that creates a recurring revenue stream with 40% gross margins, trending to around the 70-30% revenue mix, as Stuart talked about earlier. So batteries are our annuity, if you like. Aircraft deliveries generate battery replacements and generate upgrades. So this locks in long-term commercial value. And we can also uniquely benefit from the wider technology trickle-ups as aerospace electrifies. So eVTOLs, one of the reasons I joined Vertical, I passionately felt that eVTOLs were going to be the first mass opportunity for electrification. But over time, those same technologies are going to trickle up into the wider aerospace, both in defense and civil. And we're the only eVTOL OEM developing batteries to airline levels of safety. So with that, it's impossible for me to do justice to our batteries today. We are going to release a white paper later this year to dive a bit deeper. But just to close, we have a certifiable high-power battery designed for eVTOL. We have a team and a facility built to iterate quickly and safely. And we have a model that turns technology leadership into durable recurring value. We're not just building an aircraft, we're building the battery business that powers it, and much more. Thank you very much, and with that, I have an absolute pleasure to hand over to David King.
This is great. I'm loving this conference. I'm feeling like part of the company now.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you,
Amazing.
Domhnal, for the introduction. Well, it probably won't take you long to figure out that I'm a bit different, so I'll just go ahead and confess it up front. I'm one of the few Americans on the Vertical team. So it was, I think, a little before 3 years ago that I met Michael and decided to pack up my stuff and move across the ocean from Philadelphia to Bristol, England. And at the time, as Domhnal explained, I had spent 3 decades working at the big vertical lift OEMs, Leonardo, Bell, Boeing. And it had included 15 years as a chief engineer, designing, testing, and certifying new types of vertical lift aircraft. Now, I didn't move to England because of the weather. And at the time, I left an incumbent that had a $17 billion production backlog to join a relative startup company that was pre-revenue. So I joined Vertical because engineering vertical lift is my life's work, it's my passion, and I believe that Vertical Aerospace is best positioned for the future of vertical lift. And here's why. So take a look at the VX4. What steps out, what jumps out at you first is a safety standard. Now, you heard a lot about it before, and you're going to hear a lot about it again. And the reason you hear about it is because we hear about it. So when we query our customers and we say, what's the most important attribute in a new aircraft? Unanimously, it's safety. So we are designing the VX4 to meet the same safety standard as commercial airliners. And as Patrick said earlier, commercial airliners is the safest way to travel, statistically, by a lot. And that means you have to prove that your failure rate is less than 1 in a billion. Now, I was asked the question during the break, and I've heard this question before, is it going to take you a long, long time and cost a whole lot of money to get to that 10 to the minus 9, that 1 in a billion standard? And the answer is no, not if you do it up front. So we've designed the VX4 up front to have the architecture and the sizing to meet the airliner safety standard. We've designed it up front to have a highly redundant distributed electric propulsion system so that there is no single failure point in the aircraft that is going to cause it to come down. And if, during a flight, there are multiple failures that is in the realm of 1 in a billion, the aircraft will continue flying and land safely at a vertiport. You've got to build that in up front. And then also, if you look at the VX4, you look at its structure, you'll see that it's designed to be robust. It's designed with crashworthiness built in. Now, the crashworthiness criteria that we've defined is what Patrick talked about. The EASA team, under Patrick's leadership, put all that detailed criteria and all that means of compliance in the rules, in the means of compliance, so we have a clear path to compliance. So we've built that in up front. The VX4 is designed so that it can withstand an emergency crash landing with a 12G impact, either vertically or horizontally. And it can do that in a way that it gives the passengers every reasonable possibility to walk away safely. But you can't do that after the fact. You have to do that up front, and that's what's built in. So that's the number one differentiator that VX4 jumps out. The second differentiator, which we've talked about earlier and I wanted to highlight, is the scalability and the versatility. And that's built into the size of the cabin and the power margin. And you can't build that in after the fact. And so if you look at what that can provide to a customer, to an operator, it can provide the capability to provide multiple missions with one platform. It can be configured for 4 seats. It can evolve to 6 seats, as Tony talked about, because that would improve the cost per seat mile, reduce it by 50%. And the operators, the cost per seat mile, the cost is extremely important to them. Or it can evolve to an emergency medical services interior. You have to build that in up front, and that's why the VX4 is well positioned. And for the reference to the 50% number that Domhnal talked about, I mean, a 50% bigger airframe than the other 4 passenger eVTOLs. So if you look at that from a passenger perspective, that's the difference between a Mercedes S-Class and a Chevy Cruze. And so being sized for scalability and versatility means the aircraft can evolve. It can evolve to add more seats. It can evolve for more missions. We've seen that in the helicopter business. You start with one model and then you evolve it and you can customize it. But it can also evolve to a hybrid derivative, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more. And it can evolve without a fundamental redesign of the airframe, which means the evolution is done cost effectively without a long recertification period required. The third key differentiator that really attracted me to Vertical is exactly what Patrick told us. And it's what the team has in place, what Michael and the team put in place here, and that's certification. And this attribute, I think, is fundamental to our value to you as an investment proposition. And it's also the key to us executing the Flight Path 2030 strategy that Stuart laid out earlier. So we know how to certify a new and novel aircraft to airliner standards. Because if you think about it, and in my 30 years in this business, designing and building a new aircraft and proving that it does what it's supposed to do is the easy part. The hard part is proving that that aircraft continues to do what it's supposed to do, flies safely and can land safely under any set of circumstances or environmental conditions that are within the probability of 1 in a billion. That's the hard part. And that's what you have to do to certify to airliner standards. And that's what we've put in place here at Vertical, the people, the process, the culture, to be able to accomplish that. First step is we hired a lot of people that have done it before, people with experience certifying new aircraft, new systems to airliner standards. Then we teamed with a group of high certification pedigree Tier 1 aerospace suppliers, people that have done it before. And this team knows how important it is to put together a detailed plan that captures best industry practices and does that up front. That gets into the predictability of the $700 million model that Stuart explained. The predictability is built into knowing exactly what you need to do, what criteria you need to meet, and then using the prototypes and the flight test program that's going on now that you'll see in the videos, and using that to validate our models and also using it to validate how we're going to show compliance to the certification rules. So having that crystal clear plan up front is a key differentiator. And as Patrick explained, we're working side by side with both the UK and the CA and the European Union regulators to essentially do dry runs of the certification testing on our prototypes. And that allows us to build this trust. Right? We talked about trust as a currency. It builds that trust between the regulator and the applicant, and that allows us to go fast later. Now, I've been personally involved in certification programs of new and novel aircraft on both sides of the ocean. And because of that personal experience, I can say with confidence that the model that's been put in place in Europe by EASA and has been adopted by the United Kingdom CAA is the best fit for a new, novel, clean sheet type of aircraft. Here's just an example from my personal experience working programs in the United States with the FAA. Without the criteria, the means of compliance, as Patrick explained, being published, defined, publicly vetted, and approved up front, as a certification applicant, you are essentially going at risk until the end. And I've had some experiences where you're pretty sure you have an agreement, and then within the authority, the engineer changes out, And the new engineer, by the time you have to sign the statement of compliance, has a different perspective. And that can cause lots and lots of delays and headaches. So our team is going with a robust, proven, and streamlined certification process in the United Kingdom, with the UK CAA working side by side with EASA. And now we're taking those 3 key differentiators and bringing it to a hybrid propulsion variant. Now, the hybrid is not a departure for us. It is a natural evolution of our all-electric VX4. And the all-electric VX4, we see it as a perfect fit, and we're seeing that from our customers, a perfect fit for point-to-point air mobility in and around densely populated areas. So the hybrid is a natural evolution in a way that it provides an extended operational range, and that will open up additional markets. And those markets will include defense, and it will include logistics, and it will include emergency medical services, right? The golden mile the golden hour needs an extended range. And it will also allow the aircraft to be used for point-to-point air mobility from city center to city center. So the VX4, as we mentioned, is one of the differentiators, was sized up front for that versatility and for the scalabilities. And so just to give it to you in simple terms, what the hybrid does with the size of the cabin is it takes half the batteries that are installed underneath the floor, removes them and puts in a fuel system, and then takes the spacious baggage bay, as Stuart said, 70 pounds of bags per passenger, and takes a portion of that to put a turbine generator system in. And that's what we're going to prove on one of our full-scale prototypes next year in a demonstration, with a hybrid that has the same DNA as the VX4. Same cabin that can seat 6 passengers, same smooth, quiet, safe, fault-tolerant capability. Because it's a common airframe, common architecture, common systems. And the hybrid development leverages some of the strengths. And the big strength is what Michael talked about, is the battery system is what needs to evolve for the hybrid. And it's the intellectual property of developing the algorithms to control the turbine that charges the battery system and the distributed electric propulsion in flight. That is core to Vertical. That's what we've invested in. That's our strength. And that's the people that are going to make the hybrid derivative a fast evolution of the VX4. And the ability to fly a hybrid at longer ranges, of course, opens up military applications. And those applications can include logistics, and it can include shipboard operations. And I want to make a little comment about shipboard operations, again, from my experience, because I've worked with some defense programs in the past. If you've ever watched some U.S. Navy operations, vertical lift aircraft, H-60 Seahawk or a V-22 Osprey, landing or taking off from a ship deck, you'll see that it doesn't spend a lot of time hovering a few feet above the deck. That's because the wake of the propeller systems interacting with the deck creates this turbulent environment, and the technology of the legacy helicopters and tilt rotors just can't control it precisely. So they'll plant it fast on the ground from an altitude above the deck. The VX4, that's not a problem, and we've already demonstrated that on our 2 full-scale prototypes. And that's because of the modern technology of distributed electric propulsion, 8 propellers, 4 tilts, 12 surface control effectors that can control the aircraft, computer-controlled, for precision hover, precision shipboard takeoffs and landings. And this is the powerful flight control system that we're developing with Honeywell. And this powerful flight control system is one small step from full autonomy. And you think about that full autonomy that is then going to open up a whole new realm of applications, in particular for military, defense, and logistics. That provides an element of survivability. And the survivability is even enhanced by the VX4's basic configuration, which has a much, much lower acoustic signature than legacy helicopters, and has the ability to switch into all-electric mode and go low on a thermal signature. So if you look at the tactical applications,
there you go. How about that?
There is a wide range. And from my experience dealing with the United States Navy, to give an example, the H-60 Seahawk flies a lot of missions that can be flown more cost effectively by a modern VTOL aircraft. It usually doesn't use the full 4,000 pounds of payload that it needs. H-60s will be launched to go take a look over the horizon and report back to the captain. They'll be launched to go take a container of parts from one ship to the next. Those can be done more cost effectively with the VX4. And if you think about the economic value, because government procurement agencies, they care about the economics. They care about the performance, of course, but they also care about the economics. The ability to procure a commercially developed aircraft, a dual-use aircraft, will save governments a long time that they typically use on a development program to develop a technology, and save them development cost, and with the VX4, provide an asset that can do multiple missions with one aircraft. Right now, we're already in discussions with the United Kingdom Ministry of Defense and other NATO counterparts about the various use cases for the VX4. And it gets into a wide range of applications that the legacy helicopters right now just aren't fitting the need in terms of cost effectiveness and versatility. So if you think about commercial plus defense, it looks to me as if the legacy, the era of these legacy helicopters is about to be disrupted.
It's a massive market in there.
As an example, which is probably a little too close to the people here, there was a tragic accident where a Bell 206 crashed in the Hudson River earlier this year, killing all on board. So a Bell 206 is a great helicopter, and I spent a lot of time around it working for Bell Helicopter for a 1950s technology. It was certified by the FAA in the 1960s to a 1960s safety standard. So you think about that. That's 60 years of safety improvements and lessons not incorporated in helicopters flying around your city. Would you feel comfortable driving to and from work in a car with 1960s safety standards? Would you feel comfortable flying over the ocean with your family in a Boeing 707, a 1960s safety standard? No, of course not. So a couple things I want to leave you with. Number one, Vertical Aerospace has the experience and the knowledge to certify the VX4 to airliner safety standards. The VX4 design and its hybrid derivative are positioned right in the sweet spot of the demand for future vertical lift for both commercial and military. And Vertical Aerospace, with the certification process in place and the scalability and versatility of the design, are positioned to move fast when it matters most. And from a personal perspective, as much as I loved my engineering career that I built here in the United States, as much as I loved living close to family and being able to watch my Philadelphia Eagles without staying up till 3 o'clock in the morning for a primetime game, from an engineering perspective, and the opportunity, the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be part of making the future of vertical lift a reality, the decision to join Vertical Aerospace was a no-brainer. And with the team here at Vertical, I'm ready to help unlock the third dimension and bring point-to-point air mobility, clean, safe, quiet, and affordable, to the masses across the globe. And I hope you're ready too. I know Domhnal's ready, so I'll turn it over to him now.
Thanks. Thank you very much, David. So you see what I mean when you get that level of excellence and brilliance, engineering brilliance. We're on the last segment of the day. We're almost on time. I get the privilege now to introduce Professor Scott Galloway. Scott's going to join us on stage. I'm certainly not going to give his career, his amazing insight and knowledge on multiple sectors, any sort of credibility. He'll do it himself. But the most important thing is he has written a check and bought shares in this company twice. He's a significant investor in the company. I'd like you to welcome Scott Galloway to the stage, and he will introduce subsequently Lord Andrew Parker.
It's great presentation, great conference. Amazing. So much updates, so much news.
Speak openly and honestly about why I invested. I invested $4.5 million. I don't believe in discretion around finances. I think it's a strategy the top 1% deploy to keep the bottom 99% financially literate, such that the people in this room garner a disproportionate amount of resources. Another talk show. I have a podcast, so I talk very openly and honestly about my investments. This is my biggest investment of the year. I am not getting any additional options or equity for investing. This is just a straight capitalist move from someone who's making a big bet. And the reason I'm making this big bet is for 3 reasons. One, in terms of product market fit, I've been literally molesting the globe for 30 years. I know a lot from a consumer standpoint about aviation. The hiccup in the supply chain or the product market experience is the last of the first mile. I don't know what you call it. It's going to take me 80 minutes to get 6 miles to the airport in about 45 minutes. And it's going to take me 80 minutes to go another 500 miles. It's pretty clear where the chokehold is, or where the choke point is. In addition, I have never seen a worse product or felt a worse product more ripe for disruption than helicopters. I feel safe whenever I'm in the air, with one exception, when I'm in a helicopter. And you sit there thinking, this is the dirtiest, dangerous, most expensive technology we experience on a consumer level. There's never been a product category more ripe for disruption. The second is more geopolitical, and that is, if you look at what is happening in the EU, we're essentially, because of a lack or a breakdown in the relationship between the EU and the US and very aggressive actions of Putin, you have essentially the EU is going from at least 2 to 3% of GDP in terms of defense spending. Poland's going to 5%. So what do you have? You literally have an incremental $200 billion CapEx that wasn't anticipated just 24 months. And see above that strained relationship with the US, there are a small number of recipients who are eligible for that incremental $200 billion a year incremental investment. If you type into ChatGPT, give me an EU defense company with more than $1 billion market cap, there's like 3 or 4 companies. There's maybe 20 or 30 total. So I think all of that spending is going to have real priority. Any EU or European-based company is going to have, in my opinion, a tsunami of capital searching for a place to put it. The final one is, I look at companies at a bottoms-up valuation standpoint. We're trading at 500 million. Our 2 competitors are at, I think, 6 and 12 billion. What is it, Jason? That's right. Is that right? So we're 1/12th and 1/24th. Now, what's the gap? I've had much smarter people than me look at the design and look at the technology, and they said, actually, it's pretty good design. It's on par, maybe even slightly better than one of them, is the honest feedback I got back. This is a good bird. This is good technology. The gap, or the delta, in that extraordinary gap in valuation is one, insecurity around our ability to raise enough capital for what is a capital-hungry sector, aviation, right? And this is where I've known Jason for 25 years. I've co-invested with him several times, worked with him for 10 years, been on boards with him. Jason is very good at raising money. So if I wasn't confident we couldn't solve that one problem that I think is the primary fulcrum of that delta between us and 12x and 24x, I think that's the real upside. And just to close out before I bring up Lord Andrew, I like to be sober about this stuff. This sector is just littered with upset investors, right? This is a risky, I think this is a risky sector. And I see this as something that is a very risky investment. I also see it as something that is, I think, I get my money back because it strikes me that if we get in trouble, there's a couple overfunded companies that would probably sweep in and acquire us. I'm just, again, being just very honest about how I go through this analysis. I also see a fairly non-zero probability that this is a 10 or 20x. So when I look at, okay, third, this ends up like another aviation company that was big on promise, low on performance, and an ugly investment, that's a real possibility here. Another outcome, nice return, not a crazy return, but a good return based on an acquisition for someone looking for European presence in a sector that is clearly getting a lot of momentum. And then what I would call real possibility for dramatic upside. So I just see asymmetric risk to the upside here, as is evidence, and I'll circle back to the very beginning. You know, I don't sit on funds. I'm not deploying someone else's capital. I'm deploying my own capital. And as I said, I'm not getting any additional options or juice in this deal other than what I've invested alongside of you guys. Anyways, with that, I'm going to bring up Lord Andrew Parker for a conversation.
Your magic number, I will repeat it for you again in case you missed it, is 8456. For the $2,000 giveaway, your third magic number is 8456 from the previous event FOMC report.
So give us, first off, I think everyone wants to know, what is MI5? And what's the difference between MI5 and MI6?
Yeah. Mathematically, one. MI5 is the UK's national security agency charged with protecting the United Kingdom against threats of all sorts. But
now we are talking defense. Very interesting topic.
That are basically, you know, covert and
probably the peak of the night.
And national security means the same, I guess, here, but quite a specific thing in the UK. You know, we would say national security is concerned with any sorts of phenomena which threaten or endanger the life of the country or the people who live there in some sort of, you know, systematic way. So a single instance probably not enough. And so, of course, then it's dealing with terrorism, it's dealing with espionage, sabotage, cyber issues, and so on, and doing so in partnership with the other UK intelligence agencies. So the UK is blessed for some very particular reasons with having agencies that work more closely together than probably any counterparts anywhere else in the world. The reasons for that are because of all the bad things that have happened, and we've been driven together through all sorts of tragedies and catastrophes that have happened. But MI6 is the overseas operational agency, part of that family with stations overseas and operations overseas. And the third one is GCHQ, which is very much like NSA in the States, and is doing the, you know, the cyber dimension and dealing with threats and capability in that realm. And the three come together quite powerfully and work extremely closely, more closely with the US than with any other country in the world, and have done so for decades and decades, certainly back to the Second World War. And when people talk about the special relationship between the UK and the US, which really is a thing, actually when you strip it right back, at the core of it, it's about intelligence, it's about nuclear deterrent, and it's about special forces. So it's about all of the sort of, you know, core, sharp stuff that's special about the capabilities of our two nations.
So you obviously have a bird's eye view or a unique perspective into threats, what's going on geopolitically, how it intersects with the defense industry. Try and connect those dots with why you decided to go on the board here.
Sure, I will do that. If it's okay, Scott, I'll take a few minutes to do it because it's a little bit of a story. Look, I've spent 30 years in MI5 after graduating from Cambridge, and then another 7 years as the Director General, the boss of it, so 37 in all, in a career that is, I suppose one way to describe it, as I sometimes do, is punctuated by where were you when moments, like, of course, 9/11. But for the UK, more locally, 7/7 in 2005. And sometimes when I talk to people in the States, people say, actually, I knew where I was that day. That happened in London. And then from that, big wake-up call for the UK that this appalling Al-Qaeda terrorist threat was actually local as well as international. The UK spent, and I was the director of counterterrorism in MI5 then, we spent a year completely reinventing what it took to do counterterrorism in the UK, and all sorts of new cutting-edge capabilities in data and in human sources and in international operations. even closer international working. And that led up to you've all been given a bottle of water, haven't you, under your chairs? Do any of you know or remember the reason you can't take that on a plane, as we're talking aerospace? The reason is because of what happened a year after 7/7 in the UK, which was that that recreated much more powerful counter-terrorist machine in MI5 successfully detected a growing plot from Al-Qaeda, which had been hatched in the tribal areas of Pakistan and was intended as their plot to outdo 9/11. And in 2006, Al-Qaeda, in a big, complicated, highly developed operation using some explosive technology they'd researched and developed in Pakistan, tried to launch an operation which would have brought down a minimum of 7 airliners on different US cities on the same day in August, in the peak of the holiday period in August 2006. So I've just told you my worst day in my career, 7/7, happened on my watch, and my best day when something didn't happen. And so not many people know the story. It isn't massive. But think, what would the conversation be these days if that had happened? What would have happened to aviation? So big moments like that, big risks, needing to see round corners, needing to, as far as you can, not let yourself think linearly about complex geopolitics, and being ready for the surprises that inevitably come. And so after that, then, of course, we had the so-called Arab Spring, which had, some people were smiling, thinking, outbreak of democracy. I had my head in my hands thinking this is going to be a disaster for security. And it was. An Islamic State was born, and then we had all of those threats that came from that. We had growing Russia threat in Europe, and espionage led. We had, assassination plots, use of chemical weapons to murder somebody in Salisbury for the first time, and cyber, growing. And behind it all, the biggest strategic security threat for the West of all, which has always been China in my lifetime, and has just steadily grown and grown and grown and grown and grown. And today, to actually answer your question about how does that position me to think about defence, well, throughout that time, and particularly as the Director General of MI5, I was part of the National Security Council of the UK, and I was involved in some NATO bodies, and lots of international work with other countries. And part of my job was to help give advice where I could to prime ministers and secretaries of state and so on. And I did my best to do that either in crisis or in peacetime. And I suppose I learned an enormous amount about how the whole machine comes together across the different intelligence agencies, but then out into defense, into military, into international operations, and how you can construct a response to complex geopolitical situations or not respond. And one of those, of course, is what we've seen play out in Europe lately. You mentioned Putin's adventures. And I think for a long time, and I've spoken publicly about Putin long before this happened, we've been confronted with an adversary in Russia where, look at me, an ex-spook. If you put a spook in charge, which is, Putin used to be a spook in East Germany in the old days, look what happens. So don't put me in charge. But he has always, all of his life, and you just have to, read his speeches, things he said going back decades, all of this that's playing out now is the pattern that he's talked about, which is all about the victimization that he feels Russia has suffered, the dispossession he believes the Soviet Union suffered by losing its status, losing its republics and becoming a federation of Russia. And how many, and so many military adventures, almost too many to list, since he has been in charge around Russia's borders, until you get to one that suddenly gets our attention. And it gets our attention, everybody's attention, because it's in Europe. And it's Ukraine, and it's a country that has all those European borders. And it is Putin doubling down probably against advice, definitely against attempted diplomatic pressure from NATO countries and Western nations behind the scenes to discourage, didn't work, doubling down on his agenda. And you then see the rippling effects of that. Do you want me to talk about that?
No, I'm curious. Well, first, I want to make sure we understand why you went on the board, but before that, my thesis that we're about to see one of the greatest increases in capital expenditure on a sector in recent history. You were operating at the highest levels. A, do you buy into that thesis? And also, is there an appetite to spend that money domestically as opposed to what typically the EU has done, and they look to Northrop Grumman or great, outside of Dassault or BAE or whoever. But the thesis around this massive, atypical capital investment that's going to go into EU defense companies. Do you buy that?
I do buy it. And I was, as you were very quickly and in a very impressively brief way that I can't mimic, I was, as you went through it, I was mentally ticking those points. And I'll tell you why. What's changed is, first of all, as I was starting to say, this massive shadow of threat across Europe that has got European countries in fear of what's next. And there has always been a next with Putin, right? So what is next? And it's easy to guess at other neighboring countries. But in 2-3 years' time after Ukraine is over, there's another next, probably. So first thing that's different is the threat is much sharper. The second thing that's different is that the US has put Europe under pressure perfectly reasonably and understandably to actually pay up its NATO commitments, which previously were 2%, but many NATO countries were not paying even that, and to increase that further. And so the plan is across NATO countries in Europe, which is most, to get up to 3.5, and in fact aim for 5 if you include defense-related spend. And the financial effect of that, well, it's as you said, that if you add up all the aggregate spending in Europe on defense, currently I'll do big handfuls, so these are not exact, disclosed to the market special numbers, but the big handfuls thing, $400 billion currently, plans for that to grow over the next 5 years to 600 is what the stated intent roughly adds up to. So that's that 50% increase. And if you look at it as cumulative spend, again, big handfuls rounded up, the last 5 years would come to about $2 trillion. The next 5 years look set to come to about $3 trillion. So $1 trillion extra spent over the next 5 years. And then the final thing I was going to say that's changed is, of course, the technology landscape and the lessons learned from conflicts like Ukraine and the demand for lower cost and different approaches. And so, for example, the UK in its Strategic Defence Review has talked about this 20-40-40 model that maybe some of you have heard of, with aircraft which is 20% in the traditional model of a piloted aircraft, high expense, 5th, 6th generation fighter, all that stuff. 40% then, which is reusable, but preferably uncrewed, and 40% disposable, so into drones territory. And what we're talking about and you hear, and I'm sure you were working it out for yourselves, listening to David talking about the hybrid, is in that, is in that 40% reusable and potentially autonomous. So why vertical for me? Well, look, I've had an incredibly privileged career. To be able to lead MI5, I regard as a humbling honour, and I genuinely do. I didn't join MI5 to lead it. I joined it to do operations, right? I ended up leading it. Fantastic. After that, Queen Elizabeth made me her most senior official. It's called Lord Chamberlain. A huge honour. And I also joined the board of Babcock, the defence company, and have been on that board for 5 years. I've learned quite a bit about how defence industry works from the commercial side and from doing business to government. But for all those reasons, and because of all that sort of privilege of position, and I'm sure, Scott, your inbox must be full all the time because of your prominence, but you get a lot of offers, right? I get a lot of offers of interest in positions and roles and so on. So why vertical? Because it's magic, right? Look, we've held you hostage here this afternoon for hours, and you're doing very well, and thank you for all coming and for your attention, and it's great that you've still got your eyes open. But you've got your eyes open because this is a fantastic product. It is a piece of magic, because here's the opportunity, this is how I reacted to it, here's the opportunity to be part of the next big disruptive wave of change, and it happens to be in aviation. I'm not an expert on aviation. I know a bit about defence. I know a bit about business with government. I know a bit about how boards work and how you can run a company. But the exciting idea is the big thing, and quickly followed up for me by not the numbers and the spreadsheets so much. All the stuff that you guys are all experts on, I did have somebody look at that for me. But the thing I most wanted to do then was meet the people who run it. Because throughout my life, the thing that I've learnt by experience, and not because I read books about it, is in the end, with any enterprise, the key to success is the quality of the leadership at the top, the translation of that into collective alignment in single endeavour beneath, with an energized culture and a set of values that I could recognize. And I don't see all those things all the time around me, but when something has those things and has the magic idea, that's for me. And this thing is magic, and it is going to work, and you've heard all of the explanations about it today. I'm excited to be part of it. I think like you are, Scott, having just, we didn't know each other at all, but I've just heard you say what you said about why you've jumped in. Yes.
Well, I'll tell you what, just as the last thing, we just met each other, but we can do a transaction. I'll trade some of my inbound offers for your title. That's gotta be.
Look, I have a few to spare. So.
I'm going out alone tonight to some strange bar in Nashville, and I just love the rap. Scott, Lord Scott Galloway. What do you say? That's a good rap. Let's give it up for Lord Andrew Parker.
Thank you.
Wow, that was mental. Absolutely. There was your former MI5 Director General. Wow. This is why you want to attend these conferences. This is why we are bringing this to you in particular.
I know we've kept you, as Andrew said, kept you hostage. This time last year in a phone box, Jason and I. Today we've had the most outstanding guests, from Tony flying in for 22 hours, Scott Galloway bringing his presence and his investment thesis to us, with Savvy and with Jim. Cannot thank you enough. A special thank you for all the investors. You've placed your trust in me and the team to bring this to market. Huge thank you. What have you learned today? We're doing clean, safe, silent, scalable, and importantly, at a mass transport cost. This is truly revolutionary, truly revolutionary. What have you got to remember? Transition, 20 seconds. That's all we've got to do, 20 seconds. Major certification and technology unlock. certainty that this product works, and we can certify it. We're building them in Bristol, less than 700 million, guaranteed to be less than 700 million. We know what we're doing. I wanted to leave you with one thought. Why is Vertical the only company in the sector, why are we the only ones in the sector with a clear, honest, transparent discussion on certification? Backed up by clear, transparent financial operating metrics. Why is it only Vertical? It's because we're the only ones that know what we're doing. We are industry leading by far on bringing an aerospace product to market. It sets us apart from every single other player. So thank you. It's been great to see you all. We'll be hanging around for questions with the cocktails if you want to grab us. Thank you again. Have a good evening.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That was amazing. So much, just my head is throbbing. So much information, especially the last segment. This is why you want to be part of these conferences. And this is why we are bringing you the conferences. And I told you in the very beginning of the video, before the CEO spoke, obviously most of you didn't see it because you were in the main event. But if you want to rewind back and watch Stuart Simpson, that was the guy who was just closing the show, the CEO of Vertical Aerospace. Very interesting talk. I was talking about the company update, the company the business strategy. He was giving us some revised numbers as well, some better, improved guidance. And this is literally why I wanted you to be with me in the first row. And I can't thank enough to Vertical Aerospace again. Thank you, Team Vertical Aerospace. We have great relation. This is part of this. You have been on the show multiple times. Thank you for letting us walk the way, walk the journey along with you. Because that is, I was feeling like I'm part of the business. So massive thanks to Samuel Emden, the investor relation manager. Thank you very much for bringing this to our audience. It was great. I believe if you rewatch it, there'll be time chapters. So if you want to catch particular segment, I will mark it up for you. If you are rewatching it, don't go anywhere because you are going back to the main event, the FOMC report, where you will get your first two magic numbers, and I'll give you my last magic number, just because it's been a great day for everyone on here. So your last magic number is 8456. 8456. Thank you very much for staying with me. I don't know what else to say. I need to process it. I need to digest it because I'm full of it. I'm excited as an investor, as an enthusiast, as a broadcaster, as a probably aspiring analyst or aspiring expert. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I'm feeling like a part of the business. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Thank you everyone for staying with me. You are still hanging on. That's great. Martyn says he just bought Vertical Aerospace. Ooh, well, Martyn, I've got some good news coming out. There'll be some more catalyst. Don't know if you want to invest long term, but if you want to do a quick trade in and out, there might be some more catalyst in the coming couple, maybe few weeks. We are waiting for the aircraft 3, and also we are waiting for the beginning of the phase 4, which can happen anytime. The phase 4, we have 4 test phases. The first one was unpiloted. Vertical Aerospace closed it a couple of years ago. Then we had piloted hover, so piloted vertical. So there was the phase 2 when the aircraft was actually tethered first, so it wouldn't fly off or whatever, and they were performing these practice flights vertically, and then obviously untethered. That's when they discovered they are happy with the performance of the aircraft. The aircraft is actually performing a bit better than they expected, and that's why they are claiming you can now take your carry-on and onboard luggage as the only eVTOL manufacturer across the whole eVTOL market. They are claiming this currently. And now we finished recently the phase 3. So the aircraft is not moving vertically, but it's moving horizontally. It's called CTOL flight, which means conventional takeoff and landing maneuver or flight. The aircraft moves like a fixed wing aircraft, like your traditional aircraft. So it takes off horizontally, it moves horizontally, and it lands horizontally. And now the phase 4 will be combination where the aircraft can take off vertically, transition into the horizontal flight, fly horizontally, which is the obviously energy and power more efficient. So you move horizontally and then you transition. If you remember, he mentioned 20 seconds. So about 20 seconds it takes the transition from horizontal to vertical and from vertical to horizontal, vice versa. So the aircraft moves horizontally, transitions into vertical and lands. And that's the whole concept of the eVTOL. So this can happen any day from today because they have waiver by the CAA. They can start flying anytime now. When this happens, as you already heard, when Stuart Simpson was talking about it, it wasn't Stuart, it was somebody else. He said that would be massive catalyst for the stock. And it's literally weeks away, if not days. So again, there'll be quite a bit of catalyst. And with all these updates, and you can see the transparency. You can see the transparency, the honesty. Literally every single person within the company, within the business, they know what they are doing. You could hear it now. That's why I wanted to bring you the conference. That's why I wanted to bring you this. They do have competitors, yes, but they have slightly different approach. They have much more operational costs. They have slightly different business strategies. So Vertical Aerospace is unique with this. Right, I'm going away to digest this. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my evening. That was an amazing moment. If you are watching this video, there will be 2 tabs. One is my eVTOL playlist, and the other one is the eVTOL interview. This interview is not getting enough attention because Michael Cervenka, the one who spoke about the batteries and the performance of the aircraft, he gave us literally the ins and outs of the aircraft in the Royal International Air Tattoo, the biggest British air show. I met up with Vertical Aerospace in there, and I just did great interview. I learned so much about the aircraft. He tells you about the performance of the aircraft. He compares it to their competitors as well. And he already said that their platform is 50% bigger. He gives you the noise levels of the aircraft. He gives you the performance and updates and all the details you need to know. So that's it from me. Again, because we had a good day, the magic number is 8456. I'm not going to say it again. But great day. Thank you everyone for joining, and thank you everyone for staying on and listening. Definitely go back and listen to the previous, if you are interested in eVTOLs and Vertical Aerospace, go back and listen to the previous speakers. Definitely worth it. That's it from me. Here is the interview, and here is the, hang on, Martyn. Yes, Martyn is messaging me. Let's not go anywhere. Martyn just bought Vertical Aerospace to own it, right? Not to trade it. Martyn just bought part of the business. So there we go. Surely he will tell you all about it tomorrow. So Martyn says he bought 200 shares. Wow, you have... No, you don't have more than I do. No, that's great, Martyn. I'm happy. I'm so happy. That's good. So if Martyn is buying something, he's buying with conviction, isn't he? Right, so that's it. Here is the interview about the aircraft done by me on the ground. Here is my playlist. Thank you everyone for joining. That's it. That's it for now. Take care of yourselves and each other.